Okay, we were supposed to have an interview tonight with Mr. Kearns, but he has canceled the meeting for tonight. So that interview tonight with Mr. Kearns. It will not happen. The meeting tonight with Mr. Kearns will not happen. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to bring up the city council meeting that is currently in session and try to hear that. So again, the interview that is slated for tonight with Mr. Kearns will not happen. He has canceled that interview, and I'm going to try to reschedule that interview at a later point. But that interview is not going to happen. So I'm going to attempt to bring up the Palm Bay City Council meeting. They're having a very important meeting tonight in regards to um, the millage, and among other things, the filling of the seat vacated by Randy Foster. So let's see if I can tap into that meeting right now. Give me a second, and we'll bring that up on screen here momentarily. But unfortunately, that meeting with Mr. Kearns is not going to happen tonight. So I'll attempt to play the meeting that is going on at City Hall here in a second. Hopefully, you guys have been enjoying the interviews that I've been doing for the last several days. And hopefully, you can join me next week when I will continue the series of interviews starting on Monday. Monday, I will be interviewing the deputy mayor, Mr. Donnie Felix. Um, on Monday, I'll be interviewing him. So hopefully, you can join us for that meeting.
Drugs when I was 10 years old, selling everything there was to sell.
Now, these young men are employees at the food truck and get paid.
I started the program so I could change some of my decisions, to change my life.
Professionals and mentors donate time and energy to make the program what it is.
Every day we come in, I'm training them on how to get the restaurant started. I'm training them on inventory, recipe development.
Now, this is only one of 3 components that comprise the Empowered Youth Job Development Program.
The program begins with 6 months of character building and life skills, and the job development program is a reward for those committed to making a change.
My next step is getting my diploma and heading to college.
In downtown Miami, I'm Mark Jackman, Local 10 News.
And Mark says that 87% of the graduates of the Empowered Youth Program stay out of the juvenile justice system. To learn more, and if you want to donate, go to local10.com.
So it kind of, sums it up itself on what I'm looking for the Evans Center. Originally, I was looking more towards the homeless. I heard what you said, Mayor, in regards to the youth. I've also been reading more. It talks about the fatherless and the needy and the widows. And here we have a chance to alleviate the issues our police have with, it's mostly the youth. The past few murders have been children killing their parents. Like that's if that doesn't wake you up and make you want to read Revelations, I don't know what is. But like, we have an opportunity, we have the facility, we have nonprofits that are more than capable to meet this, and we don't have to put a limit on it. We can expand it to HVAC, we can expand it to like places like Oil Loop Express or Mark's Auto Tires, because there's plenty of businesses that are hurting for employees, and these kids they need discipline, and there's something in them still that recognizes that. So that's where we just got to make sure we do what we can as a city, as a community, to try to reduce recidivism and increase opportunities. So I support this already, Mayor, but I kind of just want to give staff idea and council idea of where I feel will be best suited. This is something I can see Sheriff Ivy getting behind, the state attorney getting behind. This is a collaborative effort that everybody can contribute, and we can lower crime in Palm Bay and increase opportunities. So that's all, Mayor.
Yeah, and the reason I would have pulled it is because I wanna get, if we're gonna do this, we need to start the RFI opportunity like right away.
Yes, sir.
So we shouldn't hesitate for this. It should go. If we're approving this, then we should give the city manager the authority to, get staff to work on getting some of these projects, seeing what those 501c3s. And like I said before, the last meeting, the Sea Cadets programs like that are would help, a lot of the children that I grew up with in the Bronx, right? And so those type of programs give our youth an opportunity to be focused. They have a lot of energy. I'd rather have them focus on a positive energy, right? And so those are my thoughts. But thank you for that. Perhaps instead of Project 305, 321, right? But right.
Ms. Sherman said if we pull the item as well.
Oh, okay. Oh, carry on, Ms. Sherman.
Thank you, sir. I was actually going to ask for some direction, so I appreciate it. We're on the same page. Do you want, I guess the question I have is, we can do a traditional RFI and request, just a broad range of nonprofit responses to uses of the building. We can be very specific to only youth programs, as an example, based on what you're talking about. We could also hold on developing an RFI if you wanted us to work like specifically with the sheriff's office to try to see if we could generate some interest in a program that maybe doesn't exist yet. So just kind of a sense of where you would like us to be. I mean, an RFI theoretically, I guess, would get us more responses more rapidly. But if you wanted us to narrow it to a topic like the youth, that would be helpful.
I like the youth component to it. If you don't mind,
Yeah.
let me just, and then you guys share your thoughts. I like the youth component to this, right? And then wide range, and then we could come back and select what we feel would be the best fit. But certainly the sheriff's office, I know the sheriff has a farm as well that for youth, right? So I don't know how that would fit, but certainly anyone should be welcome to bring a program. I do love drilling. Yes, I'm biased. I love the Sea Cadets. I love that type of discipline that is instilled in the Sea Cadets and the young Marines. So I'm open, gentlemen, but I do feel that it should be like our youth.
Yes, sir.
Those are my thoughts.
And I just feel simultaneously we can reach out to the state attorney's office for our location. Because I'm sure they have a contact down in Miami, so they.
In agreement with everything you guys said, especially youth focus. But instead of putting it out there for an RFI, it's us maybe based on the direction, the vision. Why don't we customize our own, specifically at the bits and pieces that we see fit for our community in terms of the aspect of the culinary program, maybe vocational, some of the vocational that fit or the demand. We'll be able to look at the demand currently in our community. Our school board already have some stuff in place for the youth, gearing to the youth. Maybe that would be an addition to what they're doing and just another site. So my mayor, what I would say, it's us customized based on what the direction we give tonight, have staff put together specifically as to what we need, or reach out to the existing agency that already service and make our own, instead of putting it out there and then we may have to wait 90 days and having some version of what we may want,
but not the whole picture.
We've been down there before. Certainly with ARPA money, I'm still sitting unsatisfied how that money was spent. But needless to say, I'd say have staff put something together, customize something, and go from there.
No, go ahead, Mayor. I'm sorry.
I'm good with that. The what keeps coming to mind is we're having a problem getting a traffic signal at St. John's, right? Parkway and Malabar Road. And that was a wide open bid just to, to put up the traffic light and then the road expansion, right? And those details. So my concern would be is that we waste time with no RFI opportunities, but I'm good either way. I think either project is good. I just want you to be aware that if we tailor it too much, we may not get much traction. So those are my thoughts. But I'm fine either way, gentlemen.
Or we can take, over the next week, like I was thinking culinary, HVAC, and auto.
Those are vocations.
But we can start shooting emails to the city manager. Like if you said sea cadets, because my dad prides himself on the discipline that the military gave him.
Yes, sir.
So that can be included in it. Deputy mayor, whatever you're thinking of, we can add that to it too. So over the course of a week,
because it gives that,
or just blanket vocational and military.
Well, keep in mind what they were saying. They were saying this was a reward, right? The guys that weren't into the food industry or that culinary industry, that was a reward for once they completed a certain project.
Yes, sir.
So that was like what I felt, that discipline is what they were instilling in them before they take that other step. So it may look like sea cadets to me, but that's still a discipline as a reward. So I'm good either way. If we could hone it in, I think that council prefers it be kind of like vocation, HVAC, manufacturing. Gentlemen, remember we have shapes right down the road, and they're manufacturing parts for the F-35. So certainly those type of programs.
If you like, what we can do, because listening to your comments and knowing also that the Evans Center does sort of by default have a lot of these culinary related features, right? Because of the walk-in freezer, refrigerator area in the kitchen. We can craft some draft RFP language that kind of takes into consideration everything you've said. We can bring that back if you want at the August 1st council meeting. It wouldn't take much to put that together.
Okay.
And then if it kind of looks like it meets your expectations, we can get the process going if you'd like.
Okay.
Also, a question from staff as we're thinking about this as you're talking, are you open to this being both nonprofit and for-profit companies, agencies that could respond, or would you like it to be only nonprofits?
When you start thinking about the neighborhood and the at-risk kids, would the cost be passed on to them? Because that's why I'm thinking nonprofit. But if we're gonna concentrate on the at-risk kids, then it should be a nonprofit, in my eyes. I don't know how you guys feel. I can't imagine they're making now they could be self-sustaining.
Sure.
The nonprofit could definitely be self-sustaining, but for them to charge children to discipline them and give them a sense of worth, then I think we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah.
If I may add, Mayor, one other thing that did work at that location when it was open as a market was the hot food section of it.
Yeah.
That section of it, that's what carried on the business for many years. My office is right down the street. Countless time, my colleague Randy Foster, I can remember countless time we went over there on purpose just to support the business, just to grab a plate of food. So having that component there, yes, we can keep it non-profit. Yes, certainly there's a cost for self-sustain. They don't, it's not market rate where there's a 40% markup. They can keep it at the just low level. That component must be the center of what goes there because it did work.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. So we got to keep that as we move forward. That component, give that opportunity as they serving that youth and the serving community at the same time. Certainly would be one of their champion. Go over there for lunch all the time.
So is that clear, ma'am? In other words, self-sustaining, but certainly not for them to.
I think that helps. That's good. We'll bring it back to you at the August 1st.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. Great discussion, gentlemen.
Thank you for that.
Else to add?
I'm good, Mayor.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. We're now on item number 4, Deputy or Councilman.
No, I was just looking
Mayor?
for that.
Oh, as you
Okay.
were.
Resolution 2024-24. A resolution of the City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, amending Resolution 2023-35 as amended by Resolutions 2024-02 and 2024-13, adopting the classification and pay plans and the position control plan for employees of the City of Palm Bay for fiscal year 2023 through 2024, rescinding resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
The only question, I'm not sure if staff was able to get it or get the answer for that or not, was the total dollar amount for the salaries. Were you able? Okay.
Not yet, sir. I'm sorry. I know Larry went to his office to try to pull that for you.
Okay.
Because we got your email. So this is about the third quarter position changes. So the last meeting we had the item that was all the fiscal impact of the third quarter changes, but it didn't have a separation of the personnel costs, so I couldn't get that to you quickly.
Okay.
I know he's working on it, so hopefully we can get that for you.
I'll get it when I get it, so it's all right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item number 5, Deputy or Councilman Johnson.
Yes, Mayor. With 5, 6, 7, and 8, I'll say the same comment is for all 4 of them.
Okay.
You know, it was mentioned by Mr. Morris, and it's mentioned in our charter. You know, public safety is our #1 priority. And the school board receives separate taxes from the taxpayers, but I see this. We're taking men and women off the streets to go into the schools, and with that, I like that they're putting some money to it, and they're putting more money towards it. But I think it should actually be I think it should be all, if not well over majority, because right here, they're committing increase of 3,500 per SRO, but we still have to cover the remaining costs, which, let me see. The estimated total cost is 312, and Madam Sherman, they're covering 216, or?
Yes, let me see here. Yes, so the total estimated cost for the 3 positions for the first item that we're on. I know there's several different memos here, but the first one for the 3 positions at Bayside, Heritage, and Southwest, the total cost to the city is $312,840. The amount that the school board commits is $216,000 or $72,000 per position. So we cover the balance of that.
Yeah, so I would honestly like to see us try to negotiate or try to increase that dollar amount, because we're taking away. We had the presentation last week of the needs and how we need to get more officers on the streets, and now school board has their taxes just like we have ours, but theirs are specifically for the schools. Ours is specifically for the city. Now the schools do reside in the city, so I understand, but I'm just trying to look to see where we're trying to be as, fiscally responsible as possible. So I just wanted to kind of have that discussion. I know I pulled all of them, but I just really wanted to have the discussion on the first one, and then based off that, move forward, whether we want to, just move forward with this, or, hey, let's see if we can negotiate and try to get a higher amount.
So the negotiation part, right? It's warranted, right? Because this is a school board issue, right? We know that some of the charter schools don't fit that criteria, right? So I don't mind going out, but at risking our children. So maybe how does that negotiation timetable set before school starts? What you're saying, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Councilman Johnson, because there's always time where negotiations should come back to the table, right? And if we see there's a huge disparity, we need to at least let the school board know. So, Madam Sherman, how does that look? I guess that's the question. How does that negotiation process look at this point? Certainly not hindering anything that has been worked on at this time.
I'm going to ask our police chief to come up and talk a little bit about how the process works each year.
Good evening. So with regards to the process covering the salaries and benefits for the SROs, so it varies. So for example, for the Brevard Public School Board, I believe it's 4, 5, and 6 on the consent agenda. The other two for Pineapple Cove, it's a little bit different. Those are all duty details. So we're not constantly staffing officers at those locations. Those are when the sheriff's office security or guardian or specialists are not there working, providing security. Then we'll provide an off-duty detail for those locations. But for Bayside High, Heritage High, and Odyssey and Southwest Middle School, that's full-time school resource officer. So I can't say without speaking for the other municipalities, the other agencies, sheriff's offices within the county, that has been an ongoing communication and dialogue with the school board. Hence why this year it was increased by $3,500. So I know that it's something that the Police Chiefs Association and the Sheriff's Office has been working on, but I'm not quite sure where we're at with that. I can't speak on it at this point. I don't know if we're in a position right now before August. To kind of jeopardize the security there for our kids, but it is something that we should probably entertain.
And who I'm sorry, who negotiates that, Chief? Who is it? Our team and the school board?
It's the school board with the sheriffs.
Okay,
Sheriff Ivy.
With Sheriff Ivy. So the county sheriff and the school board come into that agreement, and then all municipalities fall in line.
And prior to any agreement being made, the sheriff then gets with all the local municipality police departments, and discuss whether it's good, it's not good, and we give our input and opinions.
So the way this would work is, just so that we're understanding, right? Is we would ask the sheriff to see if he could renegotiate this contract.
We could. I just don't know if, to bypass not signing it this year.
We're kind of late in the game right now. And that's what I was sharing with Councilman Johnson. But perhaps the next cycle, maybe let them, ask about, council's concerned about the disparity.
Absolutely. Okay.
And if we could renegotiate this opportunity. All right. Is that good enough for you, Councilman Johnson? Any comments?
No, absolutely. I agree with you, Mayor. I think, certainly if there's differences, that much of a difference, we should address it. But certainly at this point, not at the risk of not being ready on day one.
Well, thank you, Chief. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Up.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. We're now on item number 6.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Passes 3-0. Item number 7.
So moved.
Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Item number 8.
So moved.
Second.
Johnson, Felix, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Item number 9.
Mr. Batten.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street, Southwest. Will these charging stations be on service station locations, or are they going to be on city property location? Where are you considering placing them? That's the first question. Question number 2, will there be any revenue back to the city from this grant? So is it going to be a generating system, or are we just going to try to be solving everybody else's problems? We better be getting paid for it, right? And item number 3, just to point out, because I'm not a big fan of EV, that you couldn't even get your EVs that you requested because you wanted them for the city operation, but now we're going to be trying to provide EV charging stations for the EVs that we don't have. Just thought I'd point that little simple fact out. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Sherman?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a grant opportunity that Public Works identified recently. We've not yet applied for this type of grant, and my understanding it's very competitive. So we're going to give it a try. My understanding of what it can be used for a number of things, but my general understanding is that what we can apply for is the opportunity to look for and potentially get some funding for installation of the infrastructure, but to look for the locations, to your point. The locations are not defined or determined at this point. That's what the grant helps you do, figure out where there might be a need for those EV fueling stations, charging stations, excuse me. And to the question about the charging or the cost, that would not be something that the city would take on as a cost or subsidize in any way. It would be a normal type of transaction, just like if you're at Hammock Landing and you're charging, you pay to use that service for whoever would get it.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other speaker cards on this? No. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item number 14.
Is that you? Okay.
Yep, that's me. Yes, Mayor. I had asked about this item last week on if we were going to save. But looking at the summary and reading it, in my eyes, it didn't look like we were saving because we're actually having to use $200,000 undesignated fund balance. And that's just the partial startup, because the other half, it says, for this partial startup year, approximately half of this cost is offset by salary savings from positions, eliminations, and reclassifications. So yes, we closed out the fire inspector positions. So we have the cost savings from that. But here we still have to, get another $202,400. So to me, that doesn't look like a cost savings to me. So I don't know about this item, sir. So that's why I pulled it. I want to have a discussion with council. See where y'all at. It's right there in the summary. It's the first 4 sentences.
So, Madam Sherman, you want to address anything here?
Yes, sir. I'll have our fire chief, Richard Stover, come up and talk to this item.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
The budget for fire prevention, when it was in its
Can you bring it up?
Sorry about that. Thought
Yes.
I had it.
Yeah, you could bring the lectern up on the button in the front. Mr. Miles knows the button.
Thank you. You've done this before. That better?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Sorry about that. The what we had in positions before, we had a budget of $416,036. Then we had vehicles,
In the mic,
electronics,
sir. In the mic. Thank
vehicles,
you.
electronics, fuel, maintenance, things like that. So as we mentioned last week, we took 2 positions. We made a battalion chief and lieutenant. That's roughly, if I'm guessing right here with my numbers, that's about half that $400,000. So the other money goes back over to the PDCS, the company that we're utilizing through contract. And with that, this is the first year. We have 6 months. So we're about 6. I think it's exactly 6 months to where we're using this company. So we've gone through so far, and I did meet with them on Tuesday, and we've identified some problems with some efficiencies in how the fire prevention division section was ran prior, and the way it was scheduled and everything like that. It was just a mess. So we sat down, we did some efficiencies. We did an efficiency study. We looked at how we can improve that, how we can get more money for the next year, and then turn around and make it to where if it doesn't cover everything, it's just a slight cost that's going to be back on the city, but it's going to be more efficient and have more inspections done. So with that, the proposal that he gave us, and he's taking it back and he's putting it on paper, and he's putting with that the cost projections and things like that, with the new efficiencies that they're going to be able to do, changing how it was done, and the potential of adding 1/2 of an FTE and sharing that FTE with building right now that has one that they are able to do this with. We are projecting, if everything goes right, 100% of the inspections. Now, with that increases revenue. We're going to work on getting those revenue numbers for next year also. Along with that, we found some things in the ordinance on the fire prevention costing that we're also going to readdress, because there's some things in there that don't really understand why they were done the way they were done. So we're trying to make them more in line with other organizations, other municipalities around the county and the state. So with that, if we don't do a wash next year, it'll be pretty close. But at the same time, we have gained the training division, which we didn't have, which they were able to turn around. And with this last recruit class of 12, they did most of the heavy lifting on that class. They're out now training the people in the stations, which was not done in the past. So there's the cost and the benefit to both sides. And with the improved efficiencies, looking at the ordinance and seeing what we can do there to make some things better there and more in line with the rest of the organizations and communities around the county and the region. And then the fact that we have a training division now, that we're not paying a premium. When we would bring someone in to do the training before, it would be a time and a half salary. So we lost a lot of money over there. We spent a lot that we don't need to do now because we've got these two positions. So to say I have exact numbers at the moment, I can't, because like I said, we are waiting for those numbers to come back. We're going to sit back down with the company. We're going to go back through them. We're going to look at the proposal for the ordinances and see how that works out. So I anticipate it being pretty close next year. But I have to stress the importance of this whole thing was getting a training division, which we did not have. And that's an operational decision, because without a training division, the safety of our firefighters are in jeopardy. And if we don't have a safe running fire department where we can provide a service to the citizens, then the citizens aren't safe either. So there's efficiencies there. It's not always money, but we believe, and again, we'll let you know that, we believe that it will come pretty close next year when we have the full 12-month salaries and everything in place.
Okay. So, and for this, thank you, Chief. How many positions is this going to cover?
Right now, it covers 2 contract employees, and it covers kind of their staff and their vehicles and everything else, their vacations. So it's $92 an hour. It covers that for all of them. We have no other out-of-pocket stuff there. This other position, it would be half that if we go that route. And again, we have not committed to this. We're waiting to see what they're projecting. We're going to run the numbers against what they say to make sure we're all in line. But so far, they've been pretty spot on what they provided us. So it's right now, it's the cost that for the 2 PDCF staff is $382,720 for a full year is what it's costing right now.
Okay.
And now we have, and this is unfortunate because I can't give you the exacts on this, but we've looked back at the revenue in the past, and we found some issues we're trying to fix there and figure out exactly what took place in some of these months in the past to try and line them up. There's been some things with the billing and things like that, or in question how it was done, when it was done, stuff like that. So we're trying to clean all that up. So it's really allowed us to go back in and make sure that what we're doing is efficient, cost effective, and that not only are we getting something for the training division and the safety of the firefighters and the citizens, but we're also still able to go out there and do a much better job at providing the service of fire prevention.
Okay. And the $92 per hour, that's a piggyback from the buildings.
I'm sorry?
Oh, you said 92 an hour?
Oh, yes, that's piggyback off the building. That's right out of the building contract. Yes.
Okay. Because looking at it, we're going to need more positions because we have a large city.
More inspector positions?
Yes, that's what
that's correct.
That's what
I
I'm
agree
saying.
with that. And that's why he thinks this half position, once we get done with the study that we're doing, could address the need to do 100% of our buildings.
Okay.
But I'm not going to commit to that till I see what he actually presents.
And just being honest, Chief, that's where I'm at right now. I don't feel comfortable voting for this without some of the same information you're going to have. And that's just where I'm at, Mayor. So
okay,
I would
so
like,
yeah,
because he hasn't had access to it too, and he's waiting. So he's waiting on the same.
Well, that's to get me to 100%.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
not for what's current out there right now. The numbers for what we have for what's current, we're pretty comfortable in. It's just the extra to get to where you're talking about needing more inspectors because of the growth of the city. That's what we're waiting to tie back into all this.
Oh, but also you don't have the numbers for the revenue as well.
The revenue, I have some questions on the revenue, and we're looking into that, and we're trying to align it with the ordinance and stuff. We found some billing issues and stuff like that, and we've found some, and I cannot explain why, but one building might have a process of doing 4 and 5 separate bills. So that's one person dealing with one business, one staff person dealing with one business, to provide bills 4 to 5 different times to this occupant. We have changed that to where it's all on one bill now, so that we only have to touch that occupancy once. So there's other cost efficiencies that we're working on getting done there. I honestly, I can't say why that was done that way, but there was a lot of things that were extremely inefficient in the past.
Okay. Are we, would we have to pay overtime for these positions?
No, sir.
Okay.
And this include, they go out and they do the fireworks inspection like they did on 4th of July.
Yes, sir.
They do the food trucks. We're working on some efficiencies on doing the food trucks for all of our city events and things like that, where that's even going to be easier, quicker, more efficient.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things going on in the background that'll make this a much better program. The city of Oviedo, we were just advised by them, has a way to where that they've taken their bill collections, and don't quote me, this is a rough guesstimate on what we're talking about there. I believe it was like at 60 or 65% collections on fire prevention, and they brought it way up into the high 80s and the 90s because they got back like we're doing here with the fire department and worked out some inefficiencies, and we're able to do some additional billing to bring in that additional revenue.
Okay. I'm trying to think anything else.
The goal of the fire prevention, we're doing it this way, is to put the cost of fire prevention division, because the fire prevention division almost always deals with businesses.
Yep.
Yet the taxpayers, the citizens, the homeowners were also paying. So this kind of shifts it to where the homeowners aren't doing all that heavy lifting now. It goes right back to the businesses that we're actually servicing.
Okay. And total is about 384,000.
That's for an annual salary, yes.
Okay.
Remember, we did this in the middle of the year.
Yep. And what was it prior or estimate? I hate to have you go back. What would you say was prior with the fire inspection?
The salaries?
Yeah.
It shows here that what I had annual salaries prior, because we had more positions, we were doing less with more positions. It was $416,036.21 annually.
Okay.
That's not counting vehicles, computers, fuel maintenance, things like that.
Okay, so it was slightly more, but more positions. I know we did the piggyback. Would it have been more of a cheaper rate or competitive rate if we would have went for RFP, in your opinion? I'm sorry for laboring this, but 92 an hour is a lot, and then hearing 2 positions for 382 or 384, and then several positions for 416.
Right, and somebody in this room can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe they did an RFP when they did it with building.
Okay.
And it's exactly in line with what building did. We didn't need to do anything different. We didn't need to go out for anything different. All that was covered in the contract. I don't know why it was in there, but it was great that it was, because at the time they weren't looking for it. So that worked out for us all together. We didn't have to go back through the whole process, which that would have cost more money also, because we had staff kind of duplicating what had already been done.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
So are you comfortable now, or what are your thoughts?
I'm still not, but it is what it is. I appreciate the elaboration, Chief. I kind of just had only a page of information to go off of, so it brought up a lot of questions. So, but I do appreciate your patience with me answering these questions.
Anytime, and don't hesitate to call us, and we'll answer whatever else you have.
Yes, sir.
But we're here
Thank
for.
you. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it,
sir.
Councilman Johnson?
Yeah, I don't know.
So just to Chief, just so that we're clear, I want you to be comfortable here, because this is one of those unique situations, right? So, Chief, perhaps I think what might help Councilman Johnson, I don't know, I'm going to take a stab at this, sir, is how long will it take for you to get those numbers that he's questioning about?
That's probably going to be a couple weeks.
Okay, would that put you in a difficult situation if we bought this back?
If I'm correct, and please,
Okay.
if I'm wrong,
Okay.
correct me, but we need to move the money so we can make the payments on the services they provided.
Oh,
Because
so the
right now,
services-
this money's
okay.
in personnel services, if I'm saying this right.
Okay, is so they yes.
Yeah, this is that part's like way above me.
So, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. So I guess, do you know how much we have in terms of outstanding invoices right now? Would you know that offhand?
I do not have that with me offhand.
Okay. Perhaps maybe a short-term solution, because I hear what you're asking for, Councilman Johnson. So what we need to do is provide a better actual detailed analysis showing you the expenditures, what it was, what it is now, what it's projected to be, as well as the revenue projections. That's missing from this analysis clearly. So we can bring that back to you, but perhaps an item to just put some partial funding into this as an alternative now so we can pay the invoices, but I don't know what that number is.
But this is going to be for the 6 months that's left in the calendar year. So we've done 3 months so far. So I'm going to guess this would be for 3 months worth if we have moved enough to cover 3 months of invoices.
Okay. Are you comfortable with that? Bad services that were already
rendered, yeah, that we didn't agree to yet. So that's my only thing. Why y'all do this to me?
No,
yeah, sorry.
We're looking at a
Yeah.
resolution.
Yeah, I understand.
Because
We can move.
Yeah.
We can move forward. I don't think I'm support. I'm not comfortable with it. So
Okay.
yes, sir.
All right. So that's where you're at. I still need a motion.
So moved.
I got a motion by Deputy Mayor Felix, seconded by Mayor Medina. Now, did you want to say something? You made the motion, sir.
No, Mayor, I look for that, and these are great questions, and you know, definitely good question from Councilman Johnson. I've seen, you know, outsourcing not always necessarily the solution, but as I was briefing on this, I can see long term down range how this can benefit. I've seen this service at work before. I've interacted with the you know, previous inspectors, and I kind of understand the process. I'm certainly in full support of it. I can see how it will benefit in this particular instance. So for these reasons, sir, I will support it.
And you know, Chief, I have to tell you, there's some warranted questions, right? And I think where Councilman Johnson's coming from is that we had a staffer at one point doing this, and where's the cost savings if we had a dedicated staffer to continue this process as well? I'm going to grant right now I'm supporting this, but those are things that perhaps start looking into and see that difference in that equation, and maybe get some numbers to satisfy Councilman Johnson in the future, if that's okay with you, sir. That way we're all on the same page. And that's, I just like to keep that type of harmony whenever possible. And they're not difficult suggestions. They're not.
Oh,
difficult.
no. And like I say, we're in the process of getting a lot of that information.
Yeah.
So
It's just the timing of it. I get that. But if we could, you get where I'm going, Chief.
Yeah. And when we get done, we'll talk about some of the efficiencies too, because there were a lot of inefficiencies in how it was done in the past.
It's just a time crunch. That's why I'm supporting it, brother. And we got bills to pay, right? So I got it. So I got a motion by Deputy Mayor Felix, seconded by the mayor. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Passes 2-1. We're now on item number 15. Councilman Johnson.
That's me again. Chief, come on back. Please, I'm sorry, Madam Sherman. Okay. With this one, I'm just looking. We're still working on Fire Station 7.
Yes.
Like that's one we were at the breaking of Fire Station 1 when they took it down. So I'm looking more. So where are we timeline wise?
On Station 7?
Well, on for Station 9, because we're doing the engine for Station 9. I remember you telling me engines usually now take longer than the station itself, but
Right.
yeah.
And we got lucky. The average right now for both Pierce and Suffolk, both companies, which is what we use for our apparatus, is 48 months for engines. We were able to find an engine that was in production down in Southwest Florida.
Okay.
And we were able to grab that when it came available to us. So that we're looking at probably about October. With that comes the equipment. As far, you want to know where we are on the overall project?
Or I guess timeline wise, is it looking like Fire Station 9 and the Engine 9 are going to come at the same time? Or are we going to have a fire station without an engine or an engine without a fire station?
Well, I kind of have half an answer to that just because I just got updated by the developer Monday night.
Yes, sir.
We were looking at a piece of property and we thought we had something there and it's not going to work. So they have agreed to look at the additional piece of property that we were looking at and provide some cost to me to run the water and the wastewater over to that location and then move from there. So we're trying to get all that done right now, but as soon as we find a temporary location, and both of these could be temporary locations, we're not set to say which one it's going to be, then we'll be able to turn around and do whatever needs to be done to sign the agreement and start the connections. Now we have a station, we've set up the basic design of the station. It'll take a few months to get that going. And then the truck itself, October, if it's in October, then once it gets done over where it's being manufactured, then it has to go to Sanford where they do their work. And at which point we're shipping over all the equipment, which is what this item is that you're getting here, that all that gets shipped over there so that it's mounted on the truck. And then it comes to us. We need to do a PDI through fleet. We have a couple small other items to do. And then the truck should be in service within a week or two, which historically we've been taking several months to get a piece of apparatus in service. And then we've been borrowing steel from other trucks to put that together. That comes to an end.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm good.
Thank you. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Item number 17.
Mr. Batten.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street. Okay, I have 3 questions on this one. The first one is, what are the 2 free parties that they're talking about consulting on? Do we happen to know which 2 free parties they are? They gave a recognition for one, but I was just curious as to, well, they're going to offer consultation on 2 of them. I just wondered what they would be. Number 2, what will the impact be this have on the budgeted the co-sponsorship that we have budgeted? Will this be dipping into the co-sponsorship, or will it be adding to the co-sponsorship, or will it be taking away from the co-sponsorship line budget? Item number 3, are they a tax exempt identity that we're trying to pay tax dollars into? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Sherman?
Thank you, Mayor. The 2 free events have not been determined, but similar to our agreement with the Greater Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce, we keep some language in there that allows for partnerships on events, although we may not know what those are for the coming year. It's just sort of one of the standing items in our agreement. This doesn't have anything to do directly with the co-sponsorship funding or program. This is completely separate. This is equivalent to how we pay the Greater Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce a membership annually. We get certain things out of that membership that we pay, for example, a certain number of seats at events and things like that. And yes, they are a tax exempt organization.
Thank you. I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Deputy Mayor Felix, seconded by Councilman Johnson. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Item number 18.
Mr. Batten?
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street Southwest. Will this addition of road work affect Phase 4 projects? Because this was originally scheduled for Phase 5. That's the first question. Question number 2, will this be an FDR, or what type of surfacing are we going to be looking at the road? Number 3, Emerson was just widened from 1 lane to 2 lanes, right? And in that process, it was repaved, right? So will this mean some of the streets that have not been paved are going to end up, they've not been paved in the last 30 years, some of them, are they going to end up on the short stick? If we spend this 4 million doing a road that we've already repaved and widened, are the other residents going to end up on the short end of the stick? Those are just a couple of questions on why we took something from Phase 5 and we're doing it in Phase 4, and how it's going to impact on the other people that haven't been done yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chairman?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so we are moving this one up because we've been looking at the situation with Emerson between Malabar and Waco and seeing everyone has been observing increased number of patches that have been necessary. So it's a main roadway for us. So we've decided to look at some of our outer year projects and bring them forward a little bit earlier if necessary, because they're major corridors. So that's part of the reason why that one is getting moved up, and the quality of the road is degrading. So the answer of whether it affects, it certainly does change the timing of when different road bond projects are done compared to others, but we still have the deficit that we're working to resolve, the $50 to $60 million because of the cost of things. We've had that big presentation with council in January, explained all the issues that have gone into the cost of the program and the changes in the economics of it since we started, as well as just overall concerns about whether the $150 million was enough to do that from the beginning. But regardless, our funding strategy, as we discussed in January, remains the same, that whatever that end deficit ends up being, because we've changed some of the ways we do our contracts and bids, whatever that number is, we're going to look at the funding strategy that will be outside of the road bond, that will be a general fund funded debt service. That's our plan, as we discussed before. So either way, our commitment remains to finish all the road bond projects, even if we're changing the order of one of them right now. But that's, and also the FDR question, my understanding from staff is that it's a milling and paving, and it's not an FDR.
Thank you. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second. Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor? Yes, sir.
Because he does have a point, and we've gone with the comments of inflation, but we've never really seen the receipts of it. So I think that's something that should be considered too, like showing, okay, in 2019 it went from this price to 2021 it went to this price. That's not something we've really seen, because I remember, and to Mr. Morris's point, I understand exactly where you're coming from, sir, because originally it was said that it'll cover everything. Now inflation has happened to everybody, but to what extent? So
not only that, the gas prices, right? And
yes,
then,
sir. Yeah.
And then right along that same vein,
multifaceted.
You got supply chain issues, right? You got employee issues. So maybe if we could get that type of analysis, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir. That's exactly.
If we could get some, yes, ma'am.
If you'd like, we can go over in some detail of the presentation we did in January and go into what level of additional detail you'd like, sir. We can sit down and do that and then bring that back to council if you'd like, for transparency for the public.
Is that?
Yeah, that's something that I'll go out to Public Works too if
okay.
And I'm sure myself,
yes,
I'll go out there with you. So
okay, cool. So I've got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Passes 3-0. We are now on new business item number 1, but before we do, we're taking a 5-minute recess. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Really appreciate the opportunity for each and every one of you to fellowship. Really excited that our community is gathering and fellowshipping, but I'm calling this meeting back to order. So it'd be great if everyone would be aware that this meeting is now called to order. We are now on new business item number 1, Madam Smith.
Ordinance 2024-31, an ordinance of the City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, providing for a referendum election to be held on November 5th, 2024, for the purpose of determining whether the city charter should be amended, providing for the placement of 2 referendum items on the ballot, providing the text of the proposed charter amendments, directing the city clerk to provide the supervisor of elections with a copy of the ordinance, publishing the referendum items in accordance with state law, providing for the repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Sherman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So as the city attorney mentioned, there's actually 2 parts to this memo because there are 2 proposed charter amendments that would go to the voters in November. I'll cover the first one and the city attorney will cover the next. So the first one is, as discussed last summer with city council when we were briefing on the public safety needs in the city and the ability to fund those needs. A discussion was had about creating a dedicated public safety millage. So what this item presents in follow-up to that conversation is the concept of language that would be proposed to the voters that would authorize the city to annually levy an ad valorem tax at a millage rate not to exceed 2 mils for funding police, fire, and emergency medical services, including capital, operating, and personnel expenses, which shall not be subject to Section 6.01B of the Charter, which prohibits charging an ad valorem tax that increases budgeted ad valorem revenues by more than 3% over the prior year. So in essence, what this proposal is we would create an additional millage rate, an ad valorem millage rate, that could only be used for public safety purposes. It would, if approved by the voters, it would be set annually by the city council. It could be a rate that would be set up to 2 mils. It could be anywhere less than that. It could also not be established on any given year by council. That would be an annual decision. And the point of this is that once it's established, it would not be subject to the 3% cap that affects the normal ad valorem millage rate. At this point, the history of this, the reasons why this is being proposed, and I'll just go back because this was discussed last year and also last week when we briefed on public safety needs. One of the challenges we're having as a city is that historically the growth of the city, as the city grew, the needs to add more fire stations, because we're behind in terms of number of fire stations, as an example, that was not done. We've only recently been significantly trying to invest every year more into our police and fire positions to add them. We've also been trying to catch up on the capital needs of both departments because for a number of years there was not a significant investment in replacement police vehicles, replacement fire vehicles, and those replacements, as you all know, can't be funded with impact fees. They're just reoccurring costs and they have quite a big price tag. So those are some of the things that have been starting to build as we're trying to catch up from the past years. And actually, we still do not at this moment have a capital improvements plan that is properly funded each year annually for those replacement items for the public safety personnel. But beyond that, one of the things that this is proposed to help address is the need to be able to add more fire stations, to be able to potentially get police substations in areas where they're needed. As you're aware, we not only have the need for new fire stations, but we actually have older fire stations that need to be, in this case of Station 2, for example, completely torn down and rebuilt. They're not sized properly for the city's growth. Additionally, this funding, because it could be used for personnel, if approved, it would allow us to hire more rapidly the public safety personnel we need to catch up to be in a place where we are properly staffing for the size of our city. So by way of example, as we discussed previously, one of the statistics we look at is how many officers you have per thousand population. Our city's grown rapidly, about 16% growth in about 4 or 5 years. Just in 1 year alone, I sent you all an email recently. We had about 7,000 people in basically a year's time. And keeping up with the pace of growth has been very difficult when we were already behind. So one of the statistics that we use is Florida Department of Law Enforcement state average, where they recommend, or the average is that you should have 2.31 police officers per thousand residents. Based on our population and the number of officers we have, our ratio is 1.36 officers per thousand. And I know council has talked about that as an important effort to try to overcome. That actually puts us as 239th out of 248 police departments in the state of Florida. That's how low we are compared to others. So being able to have additional funding that is dedicated toward public safety is critical. As we all know, in the way the 3% cap works, while it's beneficial when new construction revenue comes in 1 year, the 3% cap in the next year, because you have new construction, it pushes your millage rate down rather rapidly. So we've been seeing, half a mil decreases. This year right now we're at 7.0171. We're going to go down to 6.7334. What I forget the last two digits. And we anticipate in 2026 we're likely to be down around 6 even. Based on current projections. So the millage rate will continue to drop down. It will drive down because of how the cap is calculated. So what this does, if approved by the voters, is it would position council, maybe not next year, but in a year when you decided to do it, and it could be next year if it was approved, you could set a millage rate that would be additional that would help to fund some of those needs. So that's high level what this would essentially do for us. The other thing I wanted to share is just some of the potential impact to the residents. And I know that was part of the agenda packet. There was an item in there that shows the millage rate impact based on the assessed value of a property. So just to read a couple of those scenarios in, if a half a mil was established, if this were approved by the voters and council next summer were to vote on a half a mil for a property that was valued at $200,000, that would be an annual cost of about $100 in revenue for that sample, and the annual revenue estimate that we would receive from that would be about $3.8 million. Just to give you sort of a comparison of what $3.8 million could do, that's less than what we need to build a new fire station, but it would be a significant contribution if you had that coming forward. So anyway, just wanted to give you that very high level. I can certainly answer any questions you all have and add more detail as you need it.
Councilman Johnson, any questions?
The only one I was looking, I don't know if it was going to come after this. The mayor, we had spoken about the inspector general going on the vote. So that was, I guess that's the main thing. I don't know if that will come at a later date to get on the vote for this. To get on the ballot.
To get on the ballot, I think we could have that discussion.
Because it was May. I have right here May 2nd, 2024, where council's consensus was for it to be on. So that's something right there. So
NIG.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And originally, and I'll acknowledge, originally I wasn't on board, Mayor. So I do want to acknowledge that. But I looked into it. I saw it worked for Jacksonville.
Yes, sir.
So yes, sir.
Okay, we could definitely entertain that. I'm not sure if this is the right agenda item to bring it up now, but certainly we could, because I also wanted to bring up, maybe we could do this on the reports and see if it could come back next meeting. Is that something that would fit the timeline what Councilman Johnson's requesting regarding adding NIG verbiage to the charter for the voters to vote on?
Yes. If we come back for first reading with that language included for August 1st, second and final reading of the ordinance on August 15th, that will give us time. We have until August 23rd to get it to the supervisor of elections.
Okay, so I think that's good. While we're discussing that, council, as you know, we're talking about filling a position here, a vacant position. And one of the things I'd like to see if you would consider, maybe we could bring it to the voters on what their definition is of a special election. Is a special election the next election cycle? Like what we're doing now is the next election cycle has been almost, what is it, 18 months? Uh, or is a special election the definition defined as the next opportunity for an election by our city?
I'm open.
Deputy Mayor?
Mayor, I don't think I'm tracking you at all. I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
So here, let me explain.
Yeah.
So the last time we didn't fill a position, right, within 60 days, it was defined as a special election would be the next cycle. So instead of a special election taking place within 60 to 90 days, we waited from all that time to November. So that would be my question is, can we get something where it would say the definition of the special election is the next opportunity, not not in 2024 or 2026 or 2020, every 2 years, falling in an opportunity to get it sooner.
Mayor, I believe we have a very capable attorney that can shed some light on this. I think that would be, I'm sorry, super silly for us to come up with something like that. The voter vote on a charter amendment. Yeah, we may not, didn't get quite enough clarity on it as it presented, but the language is the language. It's what it is. We have several conversation on that. It is what it is at this point. As far as special election, if it's not in the year 2026, that particular seat is up for re-election in 2026. Therefore, the next elections concurrent with general election with the city, it's a special election. Period. Language is clear. We didn't get it. I think it would be super silly to go back. What are we asking the voter to do? I don't see how. That's the way I look at it. That's just my interpretation. But maybe very capable city attorney can weigh in. But I don't. I think it would be super silly to do something like that. Just my opinion.
Well, we can't ask the voters a question. What we have now is that the charter says that all vacancy elections will run concurrent with the regularly scheduled city elections. Appointments will be to serve until the next general election cycle. If it is council's desire to ask the voters if they want to change it so that it is not run concurrent, I'll need some directions so that we can provide the language that council would like the voters to instead adopt, because right now it's all vacancy elections will run concurrent with the regularly scheduled city elections. So I need to know what language we would like the voters to vote on to replace that.
So I would, and I understand, I respect your interpretation of that, but to me, a special election is not 2 years or waiting for that opportunity. It should be automatic within that time frame. How would you phrase it, Madam Attorney? Not to run concurrent.
It may be that you could do it by establishing a time, that these election must occur within X amount of days. That would get you a period. If it's close to an election, maybe able to get it within the next election, or you would have a special election. Or if you're not going to have it concurrent with the regularly scheduled election, you're going to need to establish a time frame, because otherwise you're not going to know when that's going to happen.
So can it be established at within 120 days?
Can we get it?
That would be organized with the supervisor of elections, so that we would be going by their time frame.
Yeah.
Let us look at that more if you want to make that a change. Certainly, if that's something you want to take the lead on, we'll research it and we'll confer with you before we bring it back for all of council to consider. If that's the direction council wants.
I would say I'd like to see that.
Mayor, if I may remind council and the audience and the Palm Bay resident, the fiscal impact as well. Let's not bypass that. It just not is number one, the confusion. Sounds like we're still confused 2 years later. Number one. Number two, the impact. Let's not forget the impact, the fiscal impact, as we're trying to scrape for funding for fire station, things that are truly elections certainly matter, very important. But we have something in place. We asked the voter to vote it. They voted. It is what it is. We have the opportunity to get it right. The failure of this council not doing it right the first time. Rather, we disagree, and that's on us, right? But let's remember the fiscal impact. That's just haven't been brought up. I want to make sure that is part of the consideration. Started out to 250,000. I think at the end when we, it was like 83,000. That's a whole lot of money when we have something in place already. So obviously, I say my piece on that, and you see, everybody know where I'm at. I would not support it.
Thank you.
Well, I guess the better question is, what is the intent, Mayor? What is the solution we're trying to accomplish?
What I'm trying to accomplish is giving the opportunity to the residents to vote. If we don't appoint within 60 days, they get to vote within a certain time frame. Whether it's 90 days or 120 days to be set by the supervisor of elections. That's the point I was trying to make. But if council, I don't have consensus on this, so I realize that. I'm just saying this is something that I think we could fix, because and quite frankly, when people voted for this, they figured a special election in total transparency, a special election is within 120 days or so. That's my stance on it. But I'm not going to belabor this if it's not council's wishes to support this thought process. I understand where I stand, and so that being said, I think it always gives the opportunity for the voters to decide who sits on this dais. That's all.
Okay, and I understand that. I just they did vote, because I remember I was the one who I flipped. Originally, I was just looking for an appointment when you Deputy Mayor Felix and Foster had just gotten on. Originally, I was just going to appoint. I was the one who flipped. I chose to change my mind and allow it so they could vote. But then they voted and said, no, y'all vote or y'all appoint. So that's where we are now. So they put the burden on us. They put the burden on us is where I'm at.
Okay. Well, then we're good. There's no appetite for that. Yeah. There's no appetite. Then I'm good. But at least I brought it up, and I'm satisfied with that at this time. I just feel that we could fix that. There's something about the electoral process that I really believe anyone that sits on this dais, right? And I know that we disagree on that. Should be voted on by the public, 139,000 people, right? So it is what it is, but at least I bring it up. I am in agreement. Let's look at the way we speak on the IG, so which will come back in time for the voters to vote on. So I'm good with that. So in the meantime, we have speaker cards.
Mr.
Mayor?
Stice, I'm sorry.
Oh, ma'am, yes.
If I could just, because I know, of course, most of the public is far more interested in the millage, but if I could speak on the other item that we are considering before we have the public, so at least they know why I have it there. Because I think it is probably one of the referendums that is the least paid attention to. Certainly no one has actually spoken to me about the attorney one, although I've had people speak to me about the millage. But the
Are you wanting to speak on item number 3?
it's the same item number 1.
Okay. All right, carry on, man.
The second referendum that we have is to change section 3.1 of the charter. And this item goes back to before the city had in-house counsel. We only have had attorneys employed by the city since approximately 2006. Before then, the council would employ an outside attorney who would serve as the city attorney and employ other attorneys if that person needed help. So since council was contracting, council determined who they were going to select and what pay or benefits they would provide. And it made sense because the city attorney was actually different than the clerk or the city manager, because those were in-house employees. Now, since 2006, the city directly employs the city attorney. However, I don't select the assistant city attorneys or determine their pay different than either of my charter officers. And so I am asking, now that we are all in-house, that we all have the same responsibility to actually manage the people that work underneath us. And that's all that provision is about. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the explanation. So now we'll, Deputy Mayor, speaker cards.
Mr. Stice.
Robert Stice, 1796 Winbrook Drive, Southeast. I think there's more than one way of working this here. What about, again, I'll call it brainstorming, tell you how old I am, but what about considering appointing not to exceed, you can pick a date, 6 months or a year, until that next date would come up when you actually have that election. Because I understand you don't want to drop $250,000 at the same time. You make a valid point that people should vote, but to have a couple of empty chairs up here for quite a long period of time.
Mr. Stice, I didn't mean to stop you. New business number 1.
Beg your pardon, because this is what I wanted to. This is what I wanted.
Yeah, we're talking about the millage.
Okay, then
So you want to save that for last comment, public comment?
No, I'll just leave it at that. I apologize.
Just
All right.
I didn't know where you were going at first, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, you get the primer going, right, sir? Understood.
Miss Rivera, Miss Ivy Rivera.
But you didn't want to, Mr. Stice, you didn't want to speak on the item because you filled out a public comment card, didn't you? For number 1, you didn't want to speak on that? All right, sir. Carry on, ma'am. Come on.
I'm Edith Rivera. I live in 1390 Jarvis Street, and I would like to address the proposal that is at hand. I would like to address myself to the Honorable Mayor, the councilman, and the ladies. Thank you for your attention. Today, I am representing my children, my grandchildren, and those citizens that are tired of being neglected on your responsibility for us. They feel that they are dead to you guys. I want you to consider this: consent by government. It is a fundamental fact of the Declaration of Independence. That means that you work for us. We voted you into office, and we expect you to work for us. Unfortunately, you are our servants, but we as citizens need to pick up and be good citizens and responsible citizens in order for you to do your job. Today, the proposal that is at hand, the ordinance of 2 mills for the value of each home, is violating the 3% cap. Excuse me. And due to that, you're also violating the Florida statute, which violates our trust for you. Why are you not using the general funds to give our firefighters and police officers their raise? I want you to understand that I am not against them getting their raises and the materials that they need to stay safe and protect us. However, I feel that it is a quick judgment to immediately go to tax the citizens. The cost of living has continued to rise, and I better talk really fast. And we have citizens and veterans who are retired and they are on a fixed income. I won't go into the prices and how it's calculated, but going through that, you would get more than $2 or $3 million. What will you do with that money? I'm going to challenge you today, three gentlemen. Who's going to be the one to stay strong, be of good courage, and not be afraid to make the right decisions for the citizens of Palm Bay? I say vote no. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Mr. Batten.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street, Southwest. Little bit of history class. Councilman Bailey submitted the information to apply for a 3% cap. Council approved putting it on the charter amendment, and the voters voted into favor. That was also when the voters also decided to give you your funding based on population. 3, then the council proposes a pay increase, which voters say no. So you give yourselves an increase of an expense account because you didn't get your pay raise. That equates to more manipulation to get what you want. 5. So now you will manipulate terminology to bypass the 3% cap by asking for a 0.2 millage rate for safety. So 7.0 appropriation millage for operation millage, plus a 1.1 debt millage operation, plus a 2 millage safety operation. That puts us at a millage rate of 10.13, which exceeds the 10 millage rate for the state. All right, now to put it into another perspective that individuals can understand, that if you go to the maximum of your 2 millage rate that you're asking for on a $200,000 home, the average home in Palm Bay is $318,000, but just on a $200,000 home, that's an additional $600 that comes out of the individual's budget. Now, as for the second part, as for the second charter amendment, maybe you should look at the process and grant equal treatment to your charter members, right? Right. Without, as I look at this, without having to increase budget. If they want to work within their own budget, fine. You need more people, that's great. You'll have the ability to do that, but don't ask for me to give you more money to do it, right? Tongue in cheek on this one, okay? Just because I do have a sense of humor. I'm in favor of the city attorney having the ability to manipulate and operate within her own office. However, I don't want to see a scenario like Willis hiring Wade. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mr. Hammer.
How's it going tonight? Mike Hammer, 874 Underhill Avenue, Palm Bay. As a former firefighter and a former city employee, I know how hard it is to get funds within the city. I understand that completely. One thing that's crazy about the city of Palm Bay is it's developing, and it's developing fast. You would think there would be some process where you would get money the more that it develops. I think it's called the impact fees. I think we need to address those. Especially after earlier tonight, we found out we have a little bit of leeway with working on those. I would suggest that we table what we're going to discuss in the 2 mil. We need to find out what the impact fee structure can be, then maybe have a workshop and discuss this. Other than that, You guys have a lot on your plate, and $600 a month or a year is a lot for some of us, especially with all the jobs that aren't coming in, all the money that people aren't making. We're not getting raises. We're not getting anything else. I think as citizens, we are owed a lot for being the highest taxed city in the county. I believe we need a little bit of leeway. And I think this is a good place for you guys to start to take a stand for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Ms. Conley.
Good evening. Susan Connolly, 3901 Dixie Highway, Northeast, Palm Bay. So it's no surprise to citizens that Palm Bay is the largest and fastest growing city within Brevard County. Thank you. And it is also no surprise to citizens that as our city grows, so does our need for safety services, infrastructure, and other costs related to growth. What is a surprise is city councils, as representatives of we the people, are requesting citizens to look at taxing ourselves an additional 2 mil ad valorem tax for public safety purposes. I want to read from the backup documents the reason the council gives for presenting this to the citizens. The 3% restriction in the charter directs that the city council cannot set an ad valorem millage rate that causes the budgeted revenue of the city to increase more than 3% over the prior year's budgeted revenue. This is the important line. The impact of this section, meaning the 3% cap, is a significant annual decrease in the ad valorem tax rate, which we are experiencing. The tax rate has dropped. And this is important, and limits funding available to meet the needs of a high growth city. So what we've done here is create a dilemma. In order to have low property rates, which is what the citizens have asked and voted on, we must have lower spending, and that is accomplished through the 3% cap. So going forward, we need to figure a budget method that is more in line with the needs of a high growth city, because that's where we are. It says so right here in your reasons for asking for additional property tax. My recommendation is, if council is willing to go to the extent of asking citizens to change an already voted on ordinance through a vote and a referendum, why does council not consider alternative ways of dealing with the real problem? And that is keeping our property taxes reasonable while figuring a way to increase revenue that meets the demand of a city in high growth. I think, so what I'm asking is that we have an alternative presented.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mr. Gong.
This could take a second. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thomas Gom, 1700 Lantana Court. I thought maybe I could just add a little history to the discussion. As far as the discussion about the special election, the prior language in the charter was there was no appointment. Special election was held no sooner than 90 days, no later than 120 days. Obviously, that was changed. And obviously what it changed to didn't work. So we should go back to the original language. So thank you for bringing that forward. On the 2% mill or 2 mil referendum, a little history on the 3% cap. Councilman Bailey brought the 3% cap forward as a bargaining tool when they put special assessments on the ballot at the same time, and both passed. And immediately upon the special assessments passed, that city council encumbered over $2 million, making it difficult to undo those assessments. And then, as you know, the power to assess has been removed from city council because they went to extremes. So while the city manager makes a point that if we only do 5.5 mil, I look at history. Historically, they went full bore right out of the gate, and that's what'll happen. You'll go immediately to 2 additional mil because that's the need of the city. So a little more history. That 3% cap was put in place by 70% of the voters. In 2020, it was reaffirmed with 65% of the voters. By everyone's calculations, those were both landslides. So if you want to lose a landslide in an upcoming election, this is a real good way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mr. Miles.
Dr. Alan Miles, 350 Garvey Road. I just wanted to speak about number one briefly. I think that the $250,000 was the reason the ordinances were changed originally to have a special election and at 10 to 20% people voting at an oddball time of the year for no other purpose than to elect one person doesn't seem rational to me. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Mayor, this complete speaker cards for this item.
Okay, so council, what is your pleasure, Councilman Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. This is one I had to sit, I had to pray and meditate on. And honestly, looking back at it, we talk about history. I'm surprised this place isn't packed. I'm actually very surprised this place isn't packed when you consider the stormwater assessments and how packed it was for that. And that was $100 and something. That was $160, $170. I'm very surprised because two pieces was the comment my predecessor, I won't even say my predecessor, person who sat before me had said. But with this, I looked at the same numbers, Mr. Batten. The average house is about 318,000. So that's about $600. And like President Reagan said it best, government's the problem. I'm part of the problem. I'll be honest. If I had the hindsight from 2018 that I have now, in a lot of the PUDs I had previously approved, a lot of the multifamilies I had approved, I wouldn't have approved them back then. Because we're adding more police officers, but then we're also adding more people. So I'll be the first to acknowledge I was part of the problem. Mr. Morris, I know we didn't get along in the very beginning, but I can have a conversation with you anytime, and I appreciate your feedback, sir, because you're right. So doing that, it makes me think back when I was irresponsible in college. My dad would give me $100 a month, and it was on me on how I spent it. If I spent it on gas, if I spent it on fast food, and if I didn't spend it accordingly, then I had to dial spending back. I had to eat ramen noodles. I had to eat PBJs. So the charter, Article 8 has it where our priority is public safety. So it's just going to have to come down to us as council we're going to have to cut some things out and make sure that public safety is the priority. Like, I appreciate it, but it's what it is. And it's unfortunate, but that's where I think, Mayor, we need to have another workshop. I know Deputy Mayor Felix said August 6th wouldn't work, but we can possibly either just X this or table it, however you want. Well, I say exit, but August 4th or 8th, have a conversation of what it would look like moving the budget around significantly, because I think everybody sees the same thing we see with the market. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. And knowing that, let's try to be as proactive as we can, which we were trying to do with this. I was on board. We were trying to do with this, but looking at it now, looking at the numbers, and it's not that I'm intimidated by the people speaking. Y'all are speaking your hearts out, and I hear exactly what you're saying. I'm seeing exactly what you're saying. So um, that's part of the reason why I was pushing the moratorium there, because this is what I was starting to see. I was like, okay, I'm seeing what people are talking about. I'm usually at work at 5 in the morning, so I miss traffic. But now when I'm going midday and the kids aren't in school, I'm like, okay, this is what everybody's talking about. Publix Thanksgiving every day. I'm seeing exactly what you're talking about. So just I don't know how we can go about it. I'm not going to act like I have the answers, but I definitely know that we as council, while we didn't do the moratorium, we can be a hard no on PUDs and multifamily when they come to us. I look back at the rural residential that you brought before us, Mayor. I wish I had the hindsight then, but I didn't. I apologize. But I would have kept that the way it was too. But here we are now. We can't cry over spilled milk, but we can try to just address the present to make a better future. So that's where I am, sir. It's 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 tough. It's tough for all of us, but we have the team to do it. So that's all, sir.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Mayor, I tend to have a different, different stand on that. So what's at hand tonight is asking us to make a decision. So ultimately, we just saying that here, the voters, 95,000 registered voters in the city of Palm Bay, on average for a general election, presidential elections, on average of we're expecting a 82% turnout. I think we just can't do it. Just put it in front of them. Let them weigh in. That's the way I'm looking at it. I mean, yeah, do we have a need? Absolutely. Are we seeing tough time? Absolutely. I'm a taxpayer too. I pay a whole lot of tax to the city. I mean, it would hurt me just as much. But the needs are great, people. The needs are there. I mean, we looking at the numbers. Police chief last week told us we're looking at the number Palm Bay versus where we rank in the state. It looks pretty bad. Yes, I do. I'm in agreement with you, Councilman Johnson, in terms of some of the decisions we've previously made. We may probably would. I mean, as we're facing a reality, and you recognize great leaders when facing adversity. How do we react? How do we make decisions? Do we fold or do we face it heads on? I mean, that's reality. What we asked you to do tonight, we're not the ultimate decision maker. The voters are. You guys are. We are. I mean, we're having a conversation here. I'm trying to, reason. Let's put it to you guys and make you guys make the decision. You've proven to be solid in terms of what you guys want or not. You've proven it to us. And all we'll do is say, okay, we work for you. I work for you. You'll have the opportunity to grade me within the next election. And I'm up for that. And I can face that. I'm a man. I'm going to be man enough not to fold. I'm going to do what I'm facing. Here's a scenario. And there's not an appetite for this tonight, right? As we say, yay, let's put it in front of you guys. It sounds like that's where we are. The numbers are so bad, and I was very upset, and this thing's weigh on me. I take my job very seriously. I spent most of my time. My days are constantly 80% to the city, dedicated to the city, 20% trying to make $1 to feed my family. Most of the time, that's how my days goes. Oftentimes, I have to try to balance it because I got to work, I got to feed my family, because certainly this doesn't do it, right? Barely put gas in my pocket to serve you. That's the cost. It's a cost to me to serve this great city that I love. Let's look at a scenario. Emergency call come. All firefighters or great firefighters take 18 minutes to get to your call. Worst case scenario, something tragic happened. something tragic happened. Yeah, it's on us. Exactly. So this is, we talked about 100, potentially $600 in some cases. Now, what is the cost of a life? That could be my family, that could be yours. 18 minutes? We all should be outraged. And I am. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes, debt service, whatever it may be, cut down what we need to cut, including this tonight, to make it happen. Because my number one responsibility, Mr. Gum, whatever, however you feel, and we're having a conversation, you can continue shaking your head. But I'm just saying, we're having a conversation to the 95,000 voters. That's who I'm talking to right now. I understand you're one of them. I'm too. But let's face it, all it takes is one life due to the lack of response time, or, the equation of police officers, how far off we are. So this is what I'm willing to put in front of you guys. You guys will be the decision maker. What I'm asking to do tonight is to put in your hand. So you guys have great wisdom, and I know you do. You showed it before, and let you guys decide. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing as a responsible councilman. You guys hired me to make those tough decisions. This is one of the tough calls. That make maybe some repercussion that I'm willing to accept and face. And obviously, I don't need to say where I stand on that. So I'm supporting it.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So a lot has been said. A lot has been said about history of this city. I've been here 36 years. And in the 36 years, there were opportunities to address our wait times for service regarding police and fire. They had different groups of our community came together with boards, and they had a vision for the city that included fire and police. And the same response time have even gotten worse from way back then, from back in the 90s. And I remember these boards because there was a lot of hope and a lot of community involvement. And I shared that with this council years ago on their vision boards, is what it was called, right? And in that, our citizens, and I know Fred has got to remember because he's been here longer than me. In that, we had our citizens say, okay, council, you need to move this ball forward. In all those years, it hasn't been done. In all those years, we've continued to grow. And you're right, Councilman Johnson. I was the one that was steadfast here with rural residential. I love 1 acre lots. I love 5 acre lots, and we have lost them, right? I love the fact that you have the vision today. And I mean that because that is a form of growth too, and having estate homes. But where we're at today is there's an urgent need to add 3 new fire stations, 7, 8, 9, as well as replace 2 old fire stations. We have a station 2, and right in front of our city hall that is so inadequate for our personnel. And this really gets to me. The state average is 2.31 police officers per 1,000 residents. You know what our current ranking is? 1.36. I venture to say it hasn't moved that much since 1990 or thereabouts. This was brought to us because we were discussing what options, what tools can we provide our citizenry with this dilemma that we've been facing. We are ranked 239 out of 248 police departments. 239. We're in the top 10 of the lowest. We're in the worst. And yet, we're giving, what we're discussing today is giving the citizens an opportunity to engage. Are you willing to provide an ad valorem dedicated specifically to first responders, right? In the growth in that capacity. Now, that being said, it is warranted what was already spoken on by our citizenry, where will we be responsible enough on this dais not to charge those 2 millages? That is the discussion. And I believe that the citizens will vote for this, yay or nay. Either way, this is a tool that we are coming together. We asked staff for this. Everyone here asked staff for this, and this is part of a tool that they're bringing forth that could really make an improvement in public safety in our city. Now, if the public votes nay, then there's another option. We need to continue to look at how we can make up this deficit, because we're putting people's lives at stake. We're literally putting people's lives at stake here. 18 minutes to respond. But I believe that the citizens need to understand the crisis that we are in. I've been saying that since I got on this dais. We have moved the ball forward. It's just not enough. Everything that we have done in giving them vehicles and finances, right now to equip the police officer, and the chief's not here, is thousands of dollars with a laptop and all the training and the bulletproof vests. And right now we have to really equip them, because how many shootings have we had? How many murders have we had by family members killing themselves, killing their own family members? Crime is increasing in our city. And this is where we're at today. I agree with you, Deputy Mayor. Let the citizens vote. But along with that, it is responsibility for future councils. If this were to pass, which I really don't know how the citizens will look at this, but it would help the public safety sector in our city. That would be beneficial. Something I've also noticed since I've been on this dais, and I've been part of this community, again, I'll say 36 years. Is when it comes to services, people don't want to lose their services. People are acclimated to getting a response time quickly. I can tell you from experience, my parents' lives were saved because public safety was right down the street, responded. I can't even imagine if it were 18 minutes. So I believe the right thing to do is to provide this information to the voters. This is where we're at. Would you like to include it? It would be a dedicated millage. In other words, we cannot move that millage around. It would have to be public safety. And that would be the bottom line. And so with that, gentlemen, I believe this is the right thing to do. Put it to the voters. I have seen it. This is a life and death matter. We still have to continue, ma'am, to work on options on how we're going to make this up. And again, I'm going to repeat this. The city's growth has resulted in an urgent need to add 3 new fire stations, as well as replace 2 old fire stations that have met their service life expectancy, which is 2 and 5. These services level increases also require significant investment in personnel, operating vehicles and equipment. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement provides a state average of 2.31 police officers per 1,000. The city's current ranking is 1.36 police officers per 1,000 residents, the lowest in Brevard County, and ranking Palm Bay 239 out of 248 police departments in the entire state of Florida. So, gentlemen, and for those that are listening and watching, I truly believe that your life is important to me. Life in the city of Palm Bay is important. You will have an opportunity to vote on this. So I will support bringing this to the voters. Would you like to add anything? I need a motion.
So move.
I got a motion by Deputy Mayor Felix, seconded by Mayor Medina.
Mayor,
Yes.
I was under the impression that this item was going to be continued in order to include the language for the Inspector General.
I was under the impression that you were going to bring back that item next, or is it supposed to all be together?
It would need to be included with this referendum ordinance.
Madam Attorney?
Yes, and if you voted for this ordinance and then the next meeting you added the IG, you just start over because that would then be the first reading. Because you have to have, you're going to need 2 readings that are just alike. So if you vote for it today and you add, you're essentially not
so
moving it further.
We're moving the item. We're not moving the item. We got a motion. Do you want to, what are your thoughts, Councilman or Deputy Mayor? We're going to have to go through this one more time.
Mayor, I mean, I think I may have expressed before, I'm not,
okay. All right.
I don't have any appetite for the IG, the AG. So.
Well, there, I believe an IG would be warranted because I think it goes hand in hand. Right?
It's really adding again, adding more, adding another charter officer, fiscal impact. I know we haven't discussed that, but certainly, I mean, I don't have much appetite for it. If we want to have a separate discussion, obviously you guys are on board with that. I mean, I'll still move forward, but I'm just for the record, I'm still stand, my position.
So it's got to be all 3 from what I understand, or it's got to be all 3, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll remove my second and I'll yield to the IG discussion.
Sure.
All right.
What are we doing?
I removed my second, so we're tabling this till August.
Well, it dies from a lack of a second, so then I will make a motion to table this to the August 2nd meeting. No, August 1st, August 1st meeting.
Okay. Is that good, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I second it. We have a motion to table till August 1st, is it?
Yes, sir.
August 1st. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes 2-1. We're tabled till August 1st. Number 2.
Mayor.
Yes.
10 o'clock. Did you want to do the extension of the meeting?
I think I got an hour. I'll let you know in 40 minutes. Go ahead.
Curfew's 11.
Curfew's 11. I got an hour. All right. Item number 2.
All right. Moving right along. This is your consideration of the basically the millage rate that you're going to set for 2025. We discussed this at the workshop last week, and essentially the motion that's requesting, as we talked about it at the workshop, is to set the operating millage at the current millage rate, which is 7.0171, of course, recognizing that we are building the budget based on the 3% cap rate, which is 6.7339. There it is, 6.7339. So essentially, this would be to set the operating millage rate of 7.0171, the voted debt millage rate of 1.1210, and also to officially approve the dates that we set for the actual public hearings for the budget, which would be Thursday, September 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. And the second public hearing date would be Thursday, September 26th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Any speaker cards, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Dalpra.
Pat Dalper, 410 Georges Avenue, Palm Bay. I probably should have spoke this on the last thing. I wanted to explain that anytime you put a referendum or amendment or whatever on the ballot, this is per Tim Bobanek, is that they only put 75 words. So as soon as the 75th word is there, it cuts it off. So please, whenever you put anything for the ballot, make sure that it's very clear for the first 75 words. And my other question was going to be, why don't we have a volunteer fire department?
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker?
No more speakers, sir. This item.
Okay. Well, I need a motion. I need to know where we're going to set it. I know that I can tell you right now, we're not going to exceed the cap. So that would be 6, whatever it is. But because we don't want to set it at that, because we can't, barring anything that happens, so we could set it at the, go ahead, Councilman Johnson.
I was going to ask, do we need separate motions for each one, or?
As far as I'm concerned, you could do it all as one if you'd like.
Okay, then so moved.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson.
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. Any further discussion, gentlemen?
Only discussion for Ms. Dalpra. I don't see how we can do a volunteer. I know up north they do a lot of volunteer firefighters. I don't see how we can do it down here. The chief shaking his head. Yeah, I don't see how we can do it down here. But that might be up for a further discussion with him. So, all right, that's all.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. We're now on item number 3. Madam Smith, you present this item.
Yes, sir. This is, as we recently discussed, the city council sets the salaries for the assistant attorneys. And currently right now I have 3 attorneys employed, and we've been looking at their salaries in relation to other attorneys in other municipalities, and even in relation to employees within the city. The chief deputy city attorney, initially, when we did the salary study, we made that his position equivalent with Ms. Young Brown as being the most senior deputy city manager that was in the city manager's office. And as I stated, because Ms. Sherman has the ability to provide salary increases so long as it's within her budget to her employees, now we have something where she has been able to provide that to her employees, and both of her deputy city managers now make more than my chief deputy city attorney, who has over 20 years worth of local government experience and has served as a prior city attorney. So it is really unbalanced. So what I'm asking as far as the chief deputy city attorney is to once again establish the balance and to get him back to the pay of Ms. Young Brown, which currently now is $166,073. The deputy city attorneys that I have now, Mr. Eric Messenger and Rodney Edwards, there is an even larger gap as far as between them and other cities and other employees. Right now, Mr. Edwards earns $101,867 and Eric Messenger earns $113,578. If you don't even consider attorneys, just look at other staff. Most of our assistant directors get paid more than they do. And then when you look out as far as what other cities are doing, you go just to Melbourne. Melbourne has excellent attorneys. This is not disparage them because they deserve every cent that Melbourne's paying them. But Melbourne is a much smaller city and they're insured. So their litigation is handled by attorneys that the insurance companies provide. We are self-insured. So the torts that occurred, the slip and falls, the car accidents, the lawsuits that are alleging that our police did something wrong, the contracts, all of these disputes are handled in-house, as well as advising boards, doing the standard contract review, advising department heads. So there is a lot that we ask of our attorneys, and I think it is not unreasonable that they ask that they be fairly compensated for the job that they do. So I am asking that we move the deputy city attorneys to at least be comparable with the Melbourne assistant attorney, which results in.
You have the item in the summary, the increase there.
No, I waited to talk to you all, but then I moved this during the break.
Oh, so you changed the numbers?
Oh, no, I haven't changed the numbers of what everybody else gets paid. It's what I'm asking you all. I waited to be able to discuss what you all were comfortable with. As far as I said, the chief deputy city attorney, I'm asking for $166,073. Deputy city attorney messenger, I'm asking for $133,339. And for deputy city attorney Rodney Edwards, and $131,639, which would match the pay of the Melbourne assistant attorney.
Okay. Are there any speaker cards?
Wait, can you say the numbers again, Mel? I'm sorry. It sounded different.
Chief deputy city attorney Rodriguez would be $166,073.
To be equal with Miss
Giancarlo
Brown.
Okay, right here.
Yeah.
All right.
Carry on, ma'am.
Mr. Messenger, $133,339.
Where's that?
And Mr. Edwards, $131,639. So that has Mr. Edwards being the same as the Melbourne attorney and keeping the same pay separation between Mr. Edwards and Mr. Messenger.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have speaker cards?
Yes, Mr. Batten. Mr. Bill Batten.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street Southwest. I have two items on this one. When I was going through the packet, just like the city attorney just said, she now presented what the fund, what they wanted the salary to be. I didn't see that in the packet, so that was my first question, but now I know what it is, so I'm good to go on that one. The second one was, how much did the salary survey that the city conducted, and the salary survey, which is supposed to have been citywide, why did it, one question is, why did it not include charter members so we could make a comparison, since that's what the whole big deal was? And the second part of that question is, how much did that salary survey increase the budget that we gave for the employees? I did find out, I talked with your budget manager and her financial manager, and he said that it came out roughly around 15% increase of what everybody went up across that board when they were doing it. So it wasn't a 3% raise or something. It was a significant jump. And I understand it was meeting what the average person was supposed to be getting based on their time. I'd say time and service. There you go. Time on the job. And that's what determined their pay. I understand that, but it was 15%. So was that proportionately close to what they're going to be getting also when they start making a comparison? If it's going to be close to what the employees also got. I don't know where it's going to play. It should not affect what they're entitled to, but I'd just like to know, because I'm watching budgets that are so tight that we can't say anything, even though we're a financially sound city. Thank you.
Thank you. This is two-part, I would imagine, because Madam Sherman, you handled most of the employees. So, Madam Attorney, you want to discuss, were you part of that study? And
Well, I actually wasn't involved in the study. Essentially, the numbers came out to me and I was told that's what they were. I'm not even sure who we compared it, so I can't speak to the study.
okay, Madam Sherman?
Yeah, so just very big picture, the study looked at all positions citywide, and we went through an entire review of all the positions, including positions in the city attorney's office, except for yours. And essentially what happened was all the positions then got on average, a 15% increase because we were so far behind compared to all of our peer neighbors. And we implemented that over a 2-year period, or two segments, I guess I would say. So yeah, I don't have that data in front of me, but the company that we hired to do that looked at multiple agencies, neighboring agencies, to come up with those recommendations. And back at that time when we did that, we were trying to lift the entire population of the city because our lowest paid employees at the time were, the hourly wage was around $11, $10, $11, yeah. So
Right, and it was a long time before that study had come up where those salary adjustments came out. So yes, ma'am, I get that. All right, does that answer your questions there, Master Chief? Thank you. Any other speaker cards, Deputy Mayor?
No, sir. Not for this item.
Okay, I need a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. Councilman Johnson.
Nothing else to add, Mayor. Only other question, I guess, for Madam Attorney, have you been have you been impressed with the level of efficiency and service from the gentleman?
I think our office has been doing an excellent job with the litigation, the cases that have come forth. We've been litigating cases as far as Mr. Messenger and Mr. Edwards, both state court. We've been handling federal litigation, and we even have administrative actions. We've had a lot of things where we've really, there have been cases in which Mr. Edwards and Mr. Messenger have gotten cases dismissed with the city having no liability, or cases where we have liability, where we minimize what the city has to pay through effective settlement, through the discovery process, and actually advocating for the city. So they have been doing quite a bit, and we recently looked at how we have been doing as being self-assured, and we're actually still almost 10 years later, still it is more effective to have them here within this city, not only effective in the outcome, but it's also a bit less than if we were actually paying to be fully insured. So having them here as opposed to having to go out for insurance is definitely a savings that the city has been maintaining for several years, because we started coming in-house around started here in 2011. Sometime around 2012, we started slowly bringing in some of the functions with police liability. One of the first ones that I brought in as I was deputy city attorney.
Okay, thank you. I'm satisfied.
All right, sir. All in favor, Deputy Mayor? Did you?
I don't have much to add. I think Madam Attorney did a great job, make the case for why she put this before us, and certainly in support of it. I think it makes sense. We have to compensate our professionals accordingly to what we ask them to do. So I'm supporting this.
Okay, I'm calling the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Item number 4, Madam Sherman.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item from the fire department. It's a opportunity to apply before the July, I think it's 25th deadline, for a multi-year grant that would be a regional catastrophic preparedness grant program. We would do this in partnership with some neighboring agencies, and essentially would provide some funding for personnel and contractors as well to do disaster training exercises with other agencies, and also create a regional situational awareness platform. Essentially, there's no match, so this is just a request to be able to apply for the grant.
Thank you, ma'am.
And we discussed at last week's council meeting regarding the situation with the traffic signal that we were attempting to acquire and install, both traffic signal and intersection improvements for the Malabar and St. John's Heritage Parkway intersection. As we discussed last meeting, when we put out that bid, we did not get any responses to the bid. And so in our efforts to go forward, we've got a plan. We're going to divide the bid up. We're going to seek a vendor to do the light. We're going to seek a separate vendor to do the intersection improvements. But in the interim, we need a solution. We've been looking at that. And as we discussed last meeting, we have a suggestion that actually came from a resident. I think he might have stepped out. But Dr. Alan Miles, who has been here for a couple of meetings, he had mentioned the temporary traffic signal, portable traffic signal idea. So staff did a lot of research, came up with a type of portable traffic signal that we believe will work for that area. You have a picture of it in front of you, I know, at the dais here. But essentially what this item is asking to do is really three things. We'd like to go ahead and get council's permission to lease these signals, 3 of them, because that's what we need for St. John's Heritage Parkway in Malabar, to lease 3 of them for a period at this point up to 3 months. We think it will be less than that, but to lease them while we prepare to actually buy 6 of them. The 6 would be both for permanently, I say permanently, for as long as it takes to get the signal, permanent signal done. 3 of them would be for the St. John's Heritage Parkway in Malabar, and the other 3 we'd be looking at the potential to deploy them at Emerson and the St. John's Heritage Parkway. That signal is even further out in the future. That one's going to be brought forward by developers in that area when they bring the power to that intersection. So the goal of this item is to ask you for the funding to do the lease, the funding to actually purchase, and then also a waiver of our, it's a special procurement waiver because we're asking to buy from these or lease them and buy them from a specific company. We've looked at a couple of different types of vendors for this, and staff is recommending this one in part because this particular model, this is the only vendor that we could both lease and buy. And we need a model that we're going to learn how to use now. We're going to make it work well for our intersection and then buy the same one that we've been working through. So anyway, that's really the gist of the ask. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them or defer to staff.
Council, any questions?
Are these insured if somebody was to run into one? Or?
We did talk about that. I know we talked about that too. So these would be part of our self-insurance program is what we've discussed. So.
Okay. And once we do get the permanent lights up, or actually better question, are there any opportunities to piggyback off maybe the county to get?
They want to piggyback off us, I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, were you talking about for the permanent signal?
Yeah, permanent signal.
That's absolutely one of the things that staff was looking at for the future, not for the temporary. Yeah, but for the future actual span wire signal that we're trying to put up. Yes, we've been looking at everything because we want to get that done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it quick.
Okay. All right. Then.
But the point is, we won't be able to do it before
school
starts, and this is a great plug. If you ask me.
Yep, it's a hybrid. So
hybrid, and then if we have these, we could use them along the corridor as well. On Emerson and other intersections that may come up. When it's a safety issues, it's taken us so long to get that intersection up and going right with the light, and with the buses and that intersection calls for something like yesterday. So I'm good with this too, gentlemen. Any speaker cards, Deputy Mayor? No. Okay, I need a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Passes 3-0. Item number 6, Madam Sherman.
Thank you, Mayor. So this last new business item is discussion of the process to utilize our opioid settlement funds. So when we joined the opioid settlements, the result of all that is that we annually, starting last fiscal year all the way through as late as 2040, the year 2040, we will be receiving opioid settlement funds. The amounts will vary each year because there's 7 different companies and different details of all the settlements, but we're coming forward now because we've received funding for fiscal year 23 that was about $89,000. For fiscal year 24, we received $189,000. We know that will vary each year, but the recommendation, first of all, is to get the money each year and then go forward with how much do we have and then decide what we're going to use it for. What we're looking at is we had an internal review of what these funds could be used for. It's very specific. They're attached to your agenda is Schedule A and B, which discusses core strategies and things you can use the funds for. You'll see in the agenda memo, we discussed internal uses of the funds. So we could, buy equipment, provide training for public safety staff that are involved in responding to opioid crisis. There's things we could do internally, but we also realize that there are external agencies that provide resources to the community. And that's kind of where we landed as staff and working also with Councilman Johnson and his interest on it. So the recommendation on this is to allow us to, again, like we talked about the Evans Center, put out an RFI, request for information, to find out what agencies in the community around us are interested in using these funds to provide services to our community. And we can be as broad or as specific as you like. The attachments I referenced, they are very broad in terms of there's categories that relate to actual treatment that involves medication. There's training. There's prevention programs. There's all kinds of things. But one thing we know has been a constant theme with council is the theme of helping the youth. And so there are definitely programs that have an educational component, a prevention component, where we could maybe, if you'd like, we could make that part of our priority focus in the RFI to say what programs can you as a potential nonprofit or vendor bring to our community to help our youth to prevent them from getting caught up in this. So that's an option, and just wanted to kind of put it out for discussion with you all.
Well, and I appreciate that. And Councilman Johnson, I know you were here on the dais when you ordered or had the city attorney work on that lawsuit. But let me just share with you my thoughts, because this is something that you had your pulse on. Treatment of trauma for individuals is critical to me, right? And it explains violence, sexual assault. It even highlights human trafficking. And that is a huge problem that most people are not aware of. And then overdose and overdose fatalities. But not only that, but it affects the families of those. So I think that if I had to highlight something, that would be it, sir. Those are my comments. Deputy Mayor?
No, Mayor, I think you said you made a few good points. I mean, I didn't realize until just a few years ago how critical the idea of human trafficking here in Brevard County. Some of the situation it was mind blowing. So, yes, I do. I'm in support of taking that direction as well.
Did you need anything else, Madam Chairman? What else?
No, that's it. We'll put out the RFI. That's our plan. And in the memo, I've indicated that we'd go ahead and just draft that up. We won't bring it back to you. We'll just put it out there, given this discussion, if you're okay with that. And then we will bring back to you what the results are.
Okay.
So who is interested in providing services in the community?
Thank you. Did you need a motion?
That direction's fine for me.
Direction's good? Okay. All right. So that was item number 6. Now we're going to call up one of individuals. Yeah. Oh, we do? Well, I've got, what do you mean?
Yeah, normally go to council report, but also.
Yeah, no, I got, yes. Yeah, I got this right here. One of the things that we honored Mr. Bowman earlier today is individuals that give their time to our city. So right now we're going to have the chairman of the Recreation Advisory Board provide a presentation. But this young man, and yes, I still consider him young, has really been a part of our community for decades, and he gives tirelessly to our citizens. Mr. Tom Gahn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. I'll try to be as quick as possible, realizing the late hour. But I would like to start off by recognizing the people who actually do the work. As a board member, we get to look at the ideas and come up with a concept and maybe make a plan. And then we get to go to the ribbon cutting and see it come to fruition. But what a lot of times what gets overlooked is all the work that goes in between those 2 points. So well done to our Parks Department and our Recreation Department. Back on September 7th, this city council decided we were no longer going to move forward with the campground at Fred Poppy Park, that we were still going to fund the bridge, but was interested in finding other amenities to put into the park. So we went out and asked some of the population, some of the citizens, what do you want? The only feedback I received was pickleball. So pickleball's not just a trend, it's a phenomenon.
A phenomenon.
It's the fastest growing sport in America for the 3rd consecutive year. And this trend is impacting our own community in Palm Bay. 36.5 million people play pickleball. Pickleball growth is 223% over the last 5 years. Excuse me, I'm moving quickly. So here in Palm Bay, we have a thriving pickleball community. They're getting ready to start a league with 34 teams. And the next league they want to start up is 48 teams. So what we as a board have, I'm on slide number 4 now. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. So as a board, we've talked about this, and what we came up with was a plan to put 8 pickleball courts at Veterans Park, Fredley Park, and Nungesser Park. And all of this is paid for with impact fees, no tax money. This is money that's already been paid, setting in an account, and the only thing it can be spent for is to increase the capacity of our parks or buy new parks. And we'll get to that shortly. But this will provide much needed access to the sport for residents in different areas of the city and ensure a quick return on investment. The budget request is already in place for Nungesser Park, and this provides a unique opportunity for a quick implementation. Excuse me. Our event, and then at Fred Poppy Park, we want to build 16 courts. Here's the big hook. After we have our 16 courts up and running, we want to go back to the TDC and ask for another 16 courts laid out in a fashion so that we can have a stadium. That will enable us to have state and national pickleball tournaments here in Palm Bay. So when you talk about real estate, which we're going to talk about again here in a few minutes, pickleball only takes up 220 square feet per participant. And I have a long chart here just to top off a couple of them. Football takes over 2,500, soccer takes over 3,000, cricket over 3,000, and golf over 31,000. Our impact fees right now on slide number 7. Next one, please. Yes, these are the balances of our different nexuses minus encumbered funds. So this is after we take out the bridge at Fred Poppy Park out of 32907, 32908 nexuses. And then the next slide just shows all the impact fees for each nexus and notes the bridge at the bottom. So one other thing that we've recognized is that in the 32909 zip code or nexus, we have $8 million. We don't have any parks down there where we can expand capacity. We need to build a park. We need to buy some real estate. We have $8 million. There's 2,600 acres down at the south end of Babcock Street. You could make a good deal. That's all I'm saying. But that's all that money can be spent for. You have to buy a park. There's no room to expand or add capacity to any of our existing parks in that zip code. So with that said, that would pretty well conclude my presentation.
Thank you.
I would thank you for your time.
Really, I appreciate all your hard work, and you're right. Pickleball is a phenomenon. I'd love to see. Well, I think we got speaker cards, but yeah.
Mayor, if you would allow me, Mr. Gum, I'd just like to address you real quick, if I may. Number one, let me thank you. I think I've served on the Park and Recreation for the longest time, for a long time actually. I was vice chair at some time. Mr. Gary as well. We served together. I mean, thank you for what you do. You're interesting to our city. I just want to publicly apologize. I think I conduct myself a little bit.
We're both very passionate about what we do, sir.
Yeah, but no, it's I can own it. I should never get personal. Call your name as you were making sign. But I just wanted to publicly apologize to you, sir. Thank you for all you do.
I wear my feelings on my sleeve.
Okay, I tried to do the same, but I wanted to
understand.
Well, I appreciate that.
For that.
I appreciate that. I gotta take control because we're on a time limit here, and I need a speaker. Just
speaker card.
Yes, sir. We got speaker
Mr.
cards.
Charles Westerfield. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. I'm Charlie Westerfield. I'm from Melbourne Beach. I'm the regional manager for the Florida Pickleball League. So the Central Florida region includes Brevard, Indian River County, and Greater Orlando. In Brevard, we had 80 teams and 800 players this past season. We had one team in Palm Bay out of the 80. That was started by two of your recreation department employees, Andy and David. David Gonzalez. Andy Dimmick. But we'd like to see more teams from Palm Bay. So we're here tonight to support that. And as the presentation mentioned, we have 12 courts in Melbourne and 6 courts in West Melbourne. Those courts are full pretty much every night.
Are those all outdoor courts?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Currently, there are only indoor facilities at the county gyms right now, like at with the Whitlock Center. So all courts are outdoors. They're full every night. There are Palm Bay players in Melbourne and West Melbourne playing. And also at the Jimmy Moore Complex at Sarno Road, we hold tournaments frequently where we bring in 300 or 400 people from all over, including snowbirds during the winter and that sort of thing. So if you build a complex like was described, you'd have an opportunity to bring in tourist dollars as well. So, and that's about all I have. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Leah.
Leah Gullgeorge from West Melbourne. I'm the venue coordinator for FPLI covering Brevard County. So I know everywhere there are courts throughout this county and everywhere there are not. And how much of a challenge it is for us to have these Palm Bay players. A couple of numbers that I was going through. So in West Melbourne, we have 6 courts. It's 1 court for every 4,800 residents. City of Palm Bay has 1 court for every 17,000 residents. Obviously, they're looking to play because they're up in West Melbourne and Melbourne. Not that we don't love them up there, but when you have 24 people playing and 24 people waiting to play, obviously we've got to do something about this. On a personal level, pickleball has been a godsend for me personally, and I know for really everybody that plays. The social aspect of it is incredible. Somebody mentioned before about a woman being depressed and now meeting other people and getting out of the house again. I have 150 contacts in my phone that say PB after them. Wherever I travel, I have my paddle with me. I've played in 6 different states so far and in the middle of the ocean. There's a group called Pickleball Singles Mingle. There's 15,000 of us on Facebook that we're all single. We play pickleball. We've had a couple of marriages already. That's what pickleball is doing for this society. We're having more younger people come out and play, which is fantastic. You know, they see their grandparents playing and they make fun of them until they try. And they're like, oh, this is not that easy. I want you to try it up against the former mayor of West Melbourne, Hal Rose. He plays. Not well, but I think you could. He hasn't taken up my challenge yet. But I really honestly believe that the city of Palm Bay could really just do so much. And eventually, I was a former high school bowling coach. This is going to get that far, that it is going to become a recognized sport with the FHSAA, where you're going to need courts for the kids to practice on. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker. Tyrone. Sir,
I'm sorry.
are you? Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, she said she brings a paddle everywhere.
Sir, go ahead. Listen.
Tyrone Arrow is my name. I live at 2182 Snapdragon Drive. Fred Poppy Park happens to be my backyard. You're looking at a retired New York City school teacher with 33 years and a half in special education. You're looking at an old man, I was ready to say a young man, but an old man who worked at the Boys and Girls Club in the Bronx.
Yeah, Madison Boys Club?
No, the better one. Kidsbury Boys and Girls Club. 25 years I gave.
I was going to give you kudos for being...
Third best in the country. All that to say, education, pickleball. Sports and playing and engaging, like the Boys and Girls Club, pickleball. But most importantly, what was said here today was the socialization aspect. Crosses racial barriers, crosses age barriers. You see the young playing with the old. You see the black playing with the Oriental and the white and the Jew and the Gentile. And you keep going all across it. I've never seen nothing bridge people more together than pickleball presently.
That's beautiful.
Okay? I've been on a pickleball cruise with my wife and my cousin in the back coming out of Cape Canaveral. All these rich sportsmen are investing in this. Why? Forget about the health benefits for a lot of the old ones. Okay? But I can't emphasize enough the bridging of the community, young and old. That's so important. I want to say it this way: it's the outdoor church. And being a teacher, I got to give you guys visuals. Now let me drop it. Oh, I'm in trouble, Lord.
Don't get hurt on me now. You still got a minute there.
Surrounding pickleball courts, Palm Bay pickleball courts. Come on. I want to end this note. Thank you for all you do. God bless you guys. And you will be in my prayers each night from this day forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
You just gave me an idea about preaching at a pickleball tournament, brother. You just gave me a great idea. Next speaker.
Carl Riviera.
How you doing? Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Carl Rivera. I reside at 1738 San Filippo Drive. That guy over there who just spoke, that is my cousin's husband. I've known Tyrone for 50 plus years. We have grown up together. We have mentored many, probably thousands of teenagers throughout our lifetime. We're here to talk about pickleball. I started playing pickleball 2 years ago. I have 2 knee replacements. I had a broken femur with a rod in my leg. I've had prostate cancer. I've had all kinds of surgeries done. And let me tell you, pickleball is the best thing that's happened to middle-aged people. I'm gonna tell you why. I played pickleball with guys who were in their 90s, guys who had been on the couches. They thought life was over. And this phenomenon that a lot of people laugh about because they have no idea what pickleball is. It sounds funny. But unless you actually get out there and see what the people are doing, what he says, that's so true. It crosses barriers. It knocks down walls. There is no race. There's no color. It's just pickleball relationship. I am also a pastor, and it has given me great opportunities to be with people. Can't tell you how many people I've prayed for, how many people have come up to me. They know me as PC, Pastor Carl. And they have come up to me, Pastor, can you pray for me? I have a situation. And it's a great opportunity. It's also very beneficial to keep you in shape, to get you moving again, get you off the couch, get us off the couch, all of us in the same bracket. I'm going to be 69 in 2 years, but if it wasn't for pickleball, I'll be about like 300 something pounds, grossly out of shape, and I would have given up. But every day I look forward to playing pickleball with Leah and everybody. I met Leah on pickleball and my sweetheart. All right. It's a bunch of us. But I would encourage you guys, if you don't know what pickleball is about, put an undercover on, put the skies on, get out there, just watch. Go to the parks and see what people are doing. Kids of all ages with their. I played yesterday with a grandfather who's 64, with his grandson who's 18. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. I would encourage the council, really consider, take full advantage of this. Is a phenomenon. We don't know how long it's going to last, but it's beneficial in so many ways for this community. I've been here 20 years. I'm a retired New York City police officer, by the way, also. First responder, 9/11, when the towers came down. I've been through a lot. So as my cousin and her husband, I encourage you, please consider, look at all the aspects, all the benefits for this city, for the people, the community. We could rise up, take full advantage of it. Don't let the boat pass us by and then say, well, we should have and could have, and then have regrets about it. Listen to what the people are saying. Build these courts, build the concession stands, the restaurants, whatever it takes. It'll generate tons and tons of money and just bring people together because in one common thing, and that's the sport of pickleball. Ride the boat now while it's still here.
Thank you. Hey, Pastor, pickleball pastor, are you part of the 1013 club, retired New York City
I
police
attend
officer?
occasionally.
Okay,
Occasionally.
as you were. Thank
Right
you.
now, what I am a part of in my church, I minister to senior citizens. And on Thursdays, all seniors like over 60 and over. A lot of them in their 80s, which is another story. But some of them, believe it or not, play pickleball.
Thank you. Next speaker.
No, it's complete.
Okay, that's outstanding. So, there's a pickleball phenomenon, right? So much so that whenever there's a need like that, there you have entrepreneurs that create a business, and I like the idea of tournaments. My concern is tournaments are better indoor than outdoor, I would imagine. But they're saying no. They want the heat. They want to sweat at the midday when it's 175 degrees out there. So, Council, what is your pleasure? I got to tell you, and we were at the disc golf opening, and I was talking about pickleball. So I kind of like the idea that we start to break ground on some of these. I really think maybe we can ask Fred to come up, Madam Sherman. Mr. Poppy, would you please come up for a second? I only have a few minutes because I'm on a time frame here. So my question is, do you feel you could start implementing something at Fred Poppy really quickly, or what would it take for you to do something at Fred Poppy or Fred Lee? Because Mr. Gom talked about Fred Lee and Veterans Park. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when we had our conversations with the board, the court said regional would be more of a long-term situation because it's going to require a lot more planning, and you also have to plan for facilities like restrooms and parking, things like that. So When I gave them that information, I focused in on the parts where the facilities are already in place. So therefore, the recommendation of the 8 courts at Veterans, Fredley, and Nungesser were number one.
The
They were
facilities,
primary. So those would get you some courts in a very short time period. The only thing that we would have to look at those areas is how much permitting or engineering would be required. Probably minimal because they're established parts and unless they would exceed St. John's requirements, but those would be the ones that would be.
So paint a picture for me, right? Because I know Fred Lee. Let's take Fred Lee. You mentioned Fred Lee, right?
Yes, sir.
We have tennis courts there right now.
Yes, sir. And then the plan was to do them adjacent to those courts.
Right next to them.
Yes, sir.
And meanwhile, we could also use the tennis courts with pickleball lines, or do they?
Well, they have the lines. I think when you talk to the pickleball players, they prefer
their
to
own
have specific courts because it does. By playing on the tennis courts, it does change the way the game is played, and it's not as advantageous.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea, Fred Lee. There's some property there. I could see that, right? But I don't want to give them a whole bunch to do all in one. I'm thinking do this methodical. I think those are my thoughts. Let's start at Fred Lee, or whichever one is the most.
I would say
accessible.
the intent was based on what the council determined tonight. We were going to have some conversations between Greg Miner's staff, myself, and the city manager's office. We would look at each of those individually to see which one would require the least amount of engineering, permitting, or whatever. And that the actual installation of the courts is done via a contract that we can piggyback off of. It would be the same vendor that just did the Fred Lee court.
So quick turnaround. All right, sir. I'm
Fairly
good with
quick,
that.
yes, sir.
I'm good with a thumbs up on this.
Mayor, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, cool. So, Madam Sherman and Juliet, you got. Let's get some pickleball courts, and then let's have a tournament. And the next stop, as Mr. Gomes says, TDC.
Right.
Thank you,
Yes,
thank you, sir. So now we're on reports, Mr. Councilman Johnson.
Yes, Mayor. The only report I spoke to the representative from Midwest Dental, and they're still having issues with trying to get employees hired. But then I also spoke with the representative from Lagos, Nigeria, and I saw a need, and I know we had talked about it previously with sister cities. It ain't going anywhere. So that was something I was looking at, trying to possibly bridge the gap because there's a need and then there's a potential for it. And they were looking
Get some
Yep.
employees there.
Yep. Because
Okay.
right now they're looking anywhere. I think she said minimum 3 employees, maximum 10. But if it all works out, they'll be looking to expand. So who knows what can go from there. So
That'd be
Yes,
great. They still
yes.
owe us money, don't
Yes, sir, they do. Yes, sir, they do. So that's that. I'll let staff handle that. But
Thank you.
yes,
sir.
sir.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
That's all.
Deputy Mayor.
Mayor, thank you so much. Just wanted to go on the record to say I had the opportunity to meet a couple from I think from Jersey. The former law enforcement retired, moved to our city, had a contract with Miranda Home, and I shared that with Sherman and had staff, different department looked into it. Was a very, very bad experience. Property, won't tell the property address, but I will put on record Miranda Homes. The experience was so bad to where they got their key, not live one day into the house. By the second day, the property flooded, and we got a builder that's not accept responsibilities. So here we are. They tried multiple avenue, and the builder literally put the blame on them. And it's clearly based on the description of the situation, based on what they said. By what they said in the description, it's not And as I know this may be a civil matter between two parties, but these are folks that move into our city. They're relying now. They're looking at us. How can we potentially
Protect.
have a have a say? It's a major investment. And how can we possibly? I don't know what may, what we may not any legal levy or what have you, but how can we potentially step in and try to assist? Whether it's a letter or, you know, and as I know, it could be very simple to take make this thing right, but they completely, based on what they said, not accept responsibility. So I just wanted to share that and bring it forward as to, what can possibly be done, if anything. But I think it's important. It's need to shed the light on it, let the public know, and it's not good business. So
No, and I agree with you. Can I get a motion to extend the meeting?
motion to add
30 minutes.
30 minutes. We may not use it. Hopefully
Yeah.
we don't use it.
Second.
I got a motion by Deputy Mayor Felix, seconded by Councilman Johnson. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we got an extra 30 minutes. Okay. So part of that discussion, that night could breathe a little.
Yes.
Part of that discussion, sir, is what can we study to look at how we protect folks like that, right? The house is brand new, just so that I understand this, brand new.
Brand new.
And when you say it flooded, was it
There,
plumbing or was
plumbing.
it?
It's clearly it's a plumbing issue as they start using and water coming out of both from the plumbing from both shower.
And there's no guarantee for
Technically, I have an idea. I know certain aspect on a brand new home should be completely guaranteed, but they put the blame on them as if they did something within the 48 hours they in the house.
Wow.
So which based on the description they provided, I think that would be wrong. It's a failure of customer service, accountability, responsibility on the builders. Again, based on what they provided. So,
Yeah, I agree with you. It appears to be a civil matter at this point, but in that, do we inspect the plumbing? How does that happen? 2 days,
So-
days, and then
based on Mr. Pearson share some feedback to us. So this is one of the builder that employed or that hired an outside provider. Which we do. I mean, which
yeah,
Ms.
subcontractors,
Sherman,
right?
Ms. Sherman. No,
Yeah.
not the inspection company. Ms. Sherman, you may be able to.
Yeah, and the
elaborate more on
state statute is really, has broadened the ability of, greatly broadened the ability of businesses to use private providers now with very little control oversight. So it might be something we want to look at for future when we're going up to Tallahassee and talking about potential changes we might want to make. I think that should be high on our list because we're as staff very uncomfortable. The building official, chief building official can talk to you probably for hours about the concerns we have about private providers basically have no oversight.
Mm-hmm.
So then this is a perfect example of a situation where it appears that based on the facts we've been presented, private providers signed off on this home, residents move in. It's not really ready for them, clearly. And now they're dealing with all the repercussions. And, if Miranda's not being responsive, that's a problem. So
Ultimately, though, it's Miranda that should be responsible, regardless of.
Sounds like it to me. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So what avenues do we have as a city? This seems like a private thing, but I appreciate you bringing that up because I had no knowledge that would actually go on. I'm just putting myself in their shoes, buying a home. I don't think legally, there's none that we could do, but certainly a business should back their product is the way I see things, right?
Yeah, this is something the HBCA was up at in Tallahassee trying to go against. Yeah, because it pretty much puts, it lumps them in a bad uh, a bad view as well, where they're lumped over here with all these guys who aren't, they don't have the certifications and all they don't meet all the expertise like them, and then you have things like this. So this is only one. I'm sure it's
And
going
we
to happen
must
all
say,
over the state. So,
Councilman Johnson, there's some good company like Universal, good engineering company that provide that service, and by all means, those individual inspectors they hold a license, so they are accountable. But now, who's holding them accountable? As the builder, I hire you to do a job. Now, are you, although you're licensed to do the right thing by people, but I'm still paying you. So in some instance, are they doing the right thing? Not to question that, but obviously there's a failure. There's somebody dropped the ball here, and certainly that the husband and wife, they were just completely. This is their first experience in the city, where they came here to enjoy their retirement, but they couldn't.
So the first thing is maybe we could. I agree. We need to lobby the state for this, but we need to partner with HBCA because they have a lot of stake too, right? And then have we attempted to communicate with Miranda Homes for the constituent?
Not yet. I just got the response from Chief Building Official Pearson today that it was private providers. But that's something we can look at just to see. I mean, we don't have any control or ability to change it,
Correct.
but we can certainly have, from a city standpoint, try to reach out to someone at a higher level in the organization
Yes.
and see if that will get any momentum for them.
All right, good. Okay, thank you. And thanks for bringing that forward because that's devastating for someone to buy a new home and walk into something like that. So for my reports, I just want to thank our first responders for everything that they've done and they continue to do on our behalf. So Madam Sherman, any reports?
No, sir. Thank you.
Madam Smith?
No, sir.
Thank you. So we're now back up to public comments. Yes, sir.
If only pickleball was back in biblical times, we'd be good. I'm encouraged that I saw, and bear with me, I saw staff finally get it. I think we're missing, not staff council, I think we're missing the fact, I'm a registered independent and I'm conservative, okay? The president we have right now makes Jimmy Carter look like a rock star. All right, what I want to tell you is, I grew up poor. I know what it means to be poor. You guys don't have enough money to cover what you want to cover. You simply can't. Now I've had about 6 careers. I worked for big companies, AT&T, Coors, what have you. I've been through hiring freezes, wage freezes. Okay, I've been through this. I've been through the fact that we're not giving out raises this year. Okay, because I remember my dad, they never laid off at the West Electric, and he was part of the phone company because when tough times hit, they basically hunkered down. You can't keep giving raises to folks. One of the things, if I may, and I'm tired, so bear with me, let me give you a reality pill. The first thing you folks have to look for is provide safety to your residents. We talked about 18 minutes, we talked about 20 minutes. You don't have enough, God doesn't have enough money to give you to provide all these fire engines, fire stations right now. What do you have to have? Let's not forget the times we're in right now. People, food is up, beef is up 40%. We have more homeowners insurance increases than people can handle. Automobile increases. I see people counting $5.40 for ham. You forget who your residents are. What is the average salary that people are making here in Palm Bay? You got to start making some hard choices of what you can afford to keep people safe and what you can't afford. I remember what it is to be poor, and thank God that I was able to land on my feet and get the jobs I need to be able to retire. It wasn't me, it was God. You simply don't have the money to cover what you need to cover. Okay? What do you do about it? I never met anybody from the Bronx who were rich. We were all poor. And that's what you're going to have to look at. You're going to have to make some serious cuts, but you can't put people in jeopardy. How are you going to live with yourself if there is a fire out south and it takes 20 minutes to get down there? People are killed and homes are burned. You know, learn, spend with what you have. Stop printing money that you don't have, like the Biden administration's doing. Let's get serious about how do we handle and spend what we have. Thank you. And I'm sorry to be direct. No, I'm not.
Next speaker.
Yes,
sir.
Mr. Batten.
Oh no,
He
it
did
was
have a
Eileen.
card.
Oh, Eileen Sepp. She raised her hand before.
Eileen Sepp, 1230 Friel Road, Northeast. I would have liked to talk earlier about some of the things you're doing, but let me just give you an example. At a candidate forum about a week ago, I was talking about the sample ballots, okay? The biggest problem with them is that, is it 75 characters or words? I'm not sure the limit on it. But we never get to see what the actual bill is. And when that ordinance or amendment was made on how to choose a replacement, it was extremely slanted. Nobody knew what they were getting into. It was not clear what process you were going to use. And so I spoke to Tim Bobanek, the supervisor of elections was there, and he said, well, what I can do is I can put a link to the full text of the amendment. And then I had lunch with him today, and he said, Palm Bay doesn't give me the full text. Where is it? Why don't we? Every other city is providing that, but we don't. And also, Madam Attorney, no offense, but you're on record for saying, tell me what you want, and I will word it in a way that it will pass. If you're going to do this with the milling, that's what somebody has it on tape. Okay. If you're going to do this, put in those 75 characters or words. The average cost, which checked with the county appraiser today in Palm Bay, is $339, $339,000 per home. Put in there as the average and say, so the average person is going to cost them $676. Is that what I said? No, 78. Put that in that front part and see how people are willing to live with it. I agree, we have to pay for police and fire and emergency services, but that's obligation number one before staffing, before putting in new buildings, before anything else. You learn to live with what you have. I live on Social Security. Sometimes I have $50 to live on for the month. When that happens, I'm shopping in the dollar store for my meals. You have to learn to be sensitive to the people who you're imposing this stuff on. And please don't be manipulative by summarizing things in a way that works for you and not for the people. I am disappointed that you're not at least going to fill this seat. I do agree. I don't like the process that it wound up being, but I think on this short term, it really makes sense. And you have some good people who can fill that and are willing to do it.
Thank you, Master Chief. Who's next? So please get closer.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street, Southwest. I have 3 items to address. The first one, since we're trying to look at how the millage rate is changing and setting, is maybe we could, on your charter amendments, you could maybe propose that we sunset the 3% cap. That would still keep us in a manageable time frame where we're at, because we keep blaming the cap, but the cap's still there. So we just keep giving it different names and raising the millage rate. We haven't accomplished anything. Let's consider proposing that we sunset the cap, 3% cap. That's number one. Number two, when we're looking at the outside inspectors, you know, for the inspectors for this home, we're having the same thing under your PUDs and stuff like this. They're hiring outside companies for the surveys and stuff. That's how these trees got overlooked. They hire outside companies and say, oh, well, we couldn't find any trees. They submit their paperwork and they get the stamp and say proceed. The inspectors are the only inspectors that these people are paying. They're being paid by the people that are that build the house. They don't want to really find the negatives because they want to move them. So you need to either have somebody that's going to be responsible, and that's normally an outside agent. I hate saying that, right? So, because we're seeing the results of the inspectors that are personally think they're on the graph. That's my opinion, right? Item number 3. If President Donald Trump can take a bullet, I think I can be inconvenienced a little bit to my city of Palm Bay. If he can take a bullet for the country, I can be inconvenienced for the city of Palm Bay. So after tonight, when the paperwork becomes available, I'm going to be submitting my name to be appointed for that seat. I don't know what'll happen after that, but if he's willing to do that, I should be willing to step up and make the same decisions you have to make. Instead of me just blaming you, I'll sit up there and take the blame with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, Ms. Sagari? Ms. Conley, please get closer.
Alfiagar, 1680 Main Street, Northeast Bombay. I got a few questions. Don't get me wrong. I know we need the police and fire. This is the most important infrastructure we have in our city. But I was just thinking, do we have any plan B on this funding and not going towards that military? Can we look at any other way of getting the funds to fund this, fire and police in our city, because we need them. For the longest time, this fire station up by Palm Bay Road, I think we had gotten a grant to do some work up there, but I didn't see anything done. We demolitioned that site, and I thought it would be on the way, but it wasn't. It didn't make any move. It's still there, not making any move. So I'm just saying, we definitely need, I must emphasize on it, the fire and police is very important. The response time is very important. But can we figure a plan B on that instead of doing that military? I am a property owner in this city. I paid like 30,000 or more for property taxes every year in the city. And it's going to be a big burden for me. And I'm just one of the person. I don't know, other people may pay more than that, 50, 60,000. I got commercial property, industrial property, and residential. And I'm just saying, if we can try to do something about that. The other thing is, why does we wait for 5 or 10 years before we do any increase on anything we do in the city? We wait too long. And that's one of the examples why I said, even my, business license went up so drastic. I guess it was there for 300 for maybe 10 years. But we can't do it like that. Let us increase it accordingly on a small rate instead of just increase it 50% or 100%. The stormwater, the same thing. I got quite a few property, and when I look at the taxes receipt, that stormwater is way up there, and it costs the citizens. So please take a look at that. Make the increase accordingly every year or something, every couple of years, and not wait until 10 years. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Ms. Conley?
Thank you all. My remarks are going to be kind of a summary. I like the idea of appointment within 60 days. Bill Batten is the man. He represents me and I believe the other citizens, and appoint. The second thing I want to say is your own words on the 3% cap is that it limits funding available to meet the needs of a high growth city. Bill Batten again, sunset the cap, have a workshop, redo the figures, redo the budget based on if we did not have the cap, could we meet these additional expenses? We might be surprised. We might be very surprised. And then let the citizens decide. Do you want to have an increase in property tax, or do you want to release the 3% cap and let the increased funding match the increased need? The final thing I want to say is no matter what the ordinance change is, releasing the entire text, what Mr. Bobanik said, releasing the entire text for citizens to read, even if it's 8 pages long, give us the opportunity. The summaries are unclear and they're no good, really. We're voting on things that have sentences that make a difference, and we're thinking we're going to get this, and we get this. So I want to not drop the issue to our city attorney to please release in its entirety whatever ordinance is changed, to provide that to the supervisor of elections. They will use a QR code or some way of posting where citizens in real time at the time of the vote or the sample ballot can see these things. Good night, and thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? We got another 15 minutes. Well, what is there? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to address the comment about the language not being out there. The ordinances that are adopted for anything that's on the ballot, all of the textual language is within the ordinance, just as was tonight. The textual amendment is in there as well as the official ballot language. So everything is in the ordinance and it is posted on the website.
Thank you, ma'am. Council, before we leave, is there an appetite to kind of like put on the ballot the sunset of the 3% cap? Because isn't that what just happened two years ago? But it wasn't worded that way.
You're still asking them to get rid of the cap. Whether you certainly it's up to council, whether council thinks saying it sunsetted or removing the provision might make a difference to the residents, but it has the same legal effect. Maybe their vote might be different. If council certainly wants, we can try that again. But it's the same thing that they just denied.
Okay. You have an appetite for it. Call it sunset. Maybe we'll see. Hopefully, one of them will pass. Yeah.
If we sunset, what year are you looking to sunset?
That's another question.
Next year.
What?
Just.
Is there an appetite, gentlemen? That's all.
Yeah, there is an appetite. I'm open. I'm open. Yeah, as well.
So she needs to know what type of year time frame we're talking about. 5 year to sunset within 5 years. Is that what you're asking, ma'am? I'm asking you.
You can do a year, or you could do. I know we've been talking about at some point in time we will get to rollback. Maybe you have that it sunsets in X number of years, or when the 3% cap is equal to the rollback rate. I mean, you could do a few different things. It depends on what council.
We're certainly not far though. We're not far.
We're not far. We're not far from rollback right now.
A year, 2 years. Could
next year we could be there next
year.
You could definitely say rollback within the rollback time frame. That is something to consider. I don't know. Either way, gentlemen.
That's something I'm gonna. I don't know.
ahead,
No, because I don't know what a good year would be. Maybe give us.
No, well, they're saying whenever the 3% cap creates a rollback,
gets to rollback,
it hits the rollback mark. Certainly, we could look at that. Maybe can all three come back and see which way, or what are your thoughts, ma'am?
Yes, and now we worked through. I worked with the city manager and the city clerk as far as the others. This is something different. Certainly, I'll work with the city manager and get some language together, and I'll certainly work with outside counsel who provides us the ballot summary to make sure that we're within the allotted 75 words.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. And I think the public safety aspect to it is important to me, ma'am. I think the public safety aspect is part of that discussion. The rollback, but still dedicate law first responders if that's possible. But that component is important. that we, if I don't know how you do it at that point.
Yeah,
I don't know how you
that's
do
the
it.
only.
I'm
Now
complicating
I'm
it
thinking
now.
it through
Now
even
I'm
more.
Yeah, now I'm
Both
complicating it.
both on the ballot at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. It won't work.
Oh,
No,
I don't know.
no.
I like the
But I like.
idea,
Well,
but
bring it back and
we'll
see
talk.
which way.
We'll talk.
Right? Is that good? I mean, we don't have to adopt all of them, right?
No, as long
We'll bring them back different. Okay.
right. If you take something off, that's not an issue. It's adding something for the first time. So it's better
Okay.
to have it and decide that you don't want it than to
Okay.
decide that you want it. And we probably will not have time to properly advertise and get the 2 readings.
Okay, so let's
Well,
look
get
at
the
the
2
options. Are we good with that? Are we good? All right. So no one else is, we're not speaking anymore. Everyone's done speaking. Okay, this meeting is adjourned.